Olá, muito bom dia. Hoje são 24 de abril de 2025. Estamos iniciando mais uma transmissão aqui. Estamos iniciando então mais uma transmissão aqui no nosso canal, o WillPTV. Hoje, 3 da manhã, 3 e 2 da manhã, pelo horário de Brasília. Neste momento, então, estamos iniciando aí a nossa cobertura especial da missão Shenzhou-20, lançamento número 20 da China em 2025. O lançamento então será realizado lá no complexo de lançamento em Jiuquan, na China, onde os três astronautas da China, né, taikonautas chineses, vão embarcar no Long Mark 2F lá em Jiuquan, na China. São eles, né, missão tripulada e conduzida pelo Chen Zhongrui, que é o comandante, Chen Zhongrui e Wang Jie. Né, então eles vão embarcar lá na Long Mark 2F em direção à Estação Espacial Jiuquan. O lançamento então está previsto para acontecer às 6h17 da manhã, pelo horário de Brasília. Aí nós vamos então acompanhar dentro de mais alguns instantes, então, a transmissão diretamente da China para vocês. Não se esqueça, claro, de estar se inscrevendo no canal, de curtir, comentar e compartilhar. O WillPTV sempre mostrando tudo o que acontece ao redor do mundo e também na Estação Espacial Internacional. Lembrando, falar Estação Espacial Internacional, dia 1º de maio, vamos então aí estar acompanhando a caminhada espacial aí, né, da expedição 73 na Estação Espacial Internacional. 1º de maio, a parte da manhã, caminhada espacial. Estamos aguardando então as imagens lá em Jiuquan, complexo lá de Jiuquan, na China, para vermos então aí a cobertura especial então da missão tripulada dentro de instantes. Continue aqui conosco, comigo, é claro, né? 3h04 pelo horário de Brasília. Vamos aí acompanhar juntinhos então esta missão tripulada chinesa. Lembrando que também, se ainda não deixou o seu like na transmissão, deixa aí o seu like aí na transmissão. E também, se ainda não se inscreveu no canal, se inscreva. E que puder também aí ajudar na contribuição aí do canal, é só apontar sua câmera que aí está no QR Code, no Pix, né? Você pode fazer uma contribuição aí via Pix aí no QR Code do nosso canal. 3h05, 24 de abril de 2025. Estamos aguardando as imagens lá do local do lançamento, né? Lá em Jiuquan, né, para a gente poder acompanhar a cobertura completa para vocês. São mais alguns instantes. Agora são 3 horas e 9 minutos pelo horário de Brasília. Estamos aí no aguardo das imagens lá do local lançamento em Jiuquan, na China. A gente poder então acompanharmos ao vivo a transmissão então da missão Shenzhou-20, missão tripulada chinesa. Dentro de instantes, vamos então ver juntos aí então o lançamento 20 da China em 2025. Fiquem ligados aqui no canal, já nós voltamos. Mais uma vez, agora pelo horário de Brasília, são 3 horas e 13 minutos. Quem está chegando agora, estamos aí no aguardo das imagens da missão lá da China, em Jiuquan, da missão tripulada Chen Zhongrui-20, lançamento em 20 da China em 2025. Hoje, missão tripulada 24 de abril de 2025. Hoje, quinta-feira. Missão tripulada é essa, que conta então aí com a tripulação toda da China, né? Lógico, né? Missão chinesa, né? Podia ser diferente, né? A missão é essa que conta com Chen Zhongrui, que é o comandante, Chen Zhongrui e o Wang Jie. Lançamento previsto para acontecer às 6h17 da manhã, pelo horário de Brasília. Estamos então só aguardando as imagens lá do local de lançamento, né, para a gente poder acompanhar tudo por lá, tá bom? Aguardar então aí mais alguns instantes. WillPTV na cobertura então aí especial missão Shenzhou-20. Na madrugada então do dia 24 de abril de 2025. Lembrando que no dia 1º de maio teremos caminhada espacial do número 93 pelo lado americano na Estação Espacial Internacional. Será conduzida aí pela edição 73 da estação. Para vocês que estão chegando na transmissão, sejam todos bem-vindos. Agora, pelo horário de Brasília, são 3 horas e 20 minutos. Hoje, 24 de abril de 2025. Estamos, então, acompanhando a cobertura, né, o início da cobertura da transmissão aí da missão espacial chinesa Tripulada Chen Zhongrui-20, em direção, então, à estação espacial Jiuquan. Estamos só na guarda das imagens do local de lançamento, lá em Jiuquan, China, para que a gente possa, então, juntos acompanhar esta cobertura especial para vocês. Certo? Não se esqueça de deixar o seu like na transmissão, se inscrever no canal, quem ainda não se inscreveu. Estamos próximos, então, aí da marca de 1.130 inscritos, né? 2.130 inscritos, já estamos aí próximos dessa marca. Quem ainda não se inscreveu, se inscreva, tá? Aqui a gente mostra tudo o que acontece para vocês ao redor do mundo e também na Estação Espacial Internacional. Hoje, então, nesta madrugada, aí, acompanhando esta missão espacial tripulada chinesa. O horário do lançamento, então, do Long Mark 2F, com a tripulação da Chen Zhongrui-20, está programado para acontecer às 6 horas e 17 minutos, pelo horário de Brasília. Às 17h17 no horário da China, de Beijing Time. No dia 25, mas já é dia 25, e ainda é dia 24. Não, lá já é dia 24 também. Ela está à frente da 20. Desculpa aí pelo fuso horário. Vamos lá, né? Estamos aí aguardando apenas as imagens, né, do local lá do lançamento, né? Fiquem aí conosco, ou depois voltem aí para acompanhar esta transmissão, tá bom? WillPTV com vocês, sempre aí. Já voltamos. Já estamos então com imagens ao vivo lá do complexo de lançamento em Jiuquan, na China. Então, neste momento aí, cobertura especial para vocês do lançamento tripulado chinês da missão Chen Zhongrui-20. Agora, pelo horário de Brasília, são 3 horas e 24 minutos, né? A população, então, já se encontra, os funcionários, pessoas, amigos, né, familiares, já se encontram, então, lá no complexo em Jiuquan, aguardando, então, aí a saída dos astronautas chineses, né, que vai, então, em direção ao complexo de lançamento, lá em Jiuquan, na plataforma de lançamento, né, e para, então, fazer um embarque no Long Mark 2F, certo? Então, estamos aí com imagens ao vivo lá do complexo de Jiuquan, né? Foi como se fosse o complexo lá do Centro Espacial Kennedy, né, na Flórida, nos Estados Unidos, né? Tem também esses prédios aí, né, onde ficam, então, os astronautas em quarentena, né, para poder fazer todas as averiguações, uniforme, né, treinamento. E aí depois eles seguem então, aí para o embarque no Long Mark 2F. Por enquanto ele não tem áudio aberto. Já está com o áudio aberto lá no local. Já podemos então acompanhar aí em primeira mão para vocês aí em Jiuquan, lá na China. Estamos ao vivo, hein? Abertura então especial aí para vocês. E aí estão eles. Aí, os astronautas chineses. O Chen Zhongrui e Wang Jie. E aí estão eles aí para iniciar então.
On the left.
Vamos lá.
Comrade Commander-in-Chief, we are following the order to carry out Shenzhou-20 manned space flight mission. Now we are ready to go. Please indicate. Member of a PLA Astronaut Corps, Taikonaut, Chen Dong. Taikonaut, Chen Zhongrui. Taikonaut, Wang Jie. Proceed. Yes, salute.
And we can see behind them, right, Professor Yang? That's that screen, the poster, or whatever it is behind them. That's all the previous astronauts who've been up in space.
Yes. So there are photos of each astronaut who has already made it to outer space.
It's actually kind of sentimental to see, isn't it?
The portrait of Mr. Chen Zhongrui is already in.
Yes, exactly. His third time now already.
Yeah.
I mean, this would be a fairly different, significantly different trip for him this time round, right? I mean, he'll be up there for 6 months. The last time was in 2021?
Shenzhou-20 mission in
2022. How long was he up there last time?
Also lasted for 6 months.
6 months as well.
So this time, after the return of Mr. Chen Zhongrui, he will make another record for the accumulated duration more than 1 year. About 13 months. Because in Shenzhou-11 mission, in his maiden flight, he stayed in outer space for 33 days.
Oh, right. So plus the last 6 months, plus this 6 months.
So he's already in outer space for more than 7 months.
But the last time he was up there, the space station itself was in a different stage.
Yes.
It hadn't
but
reached
just
this application.
During the Shenzhou-14 mission, Mr. Shen Dong is also the commander, completed the 3-module configuration of China's Pinghu space station. So Shenzhou-14 mission is really important for the construction of, and also, that this time he became the second time to be the commander.
Oh, but he was the commander in the 2022 mission as well.
Yeah, exactly.
But he'll be doing possibly different sort of tests and experiments this time than when he did previously.
Exactly.
Right?
So the task for him is different this time. Last time, the major task for Mr. Chen Dong is the construction. The visiting of different modules of Pinghu space station. Just during the Shenzhou-14 mission comes the Wentian module and the Mengtian module. So the configuration of the Pinghu space station changed many times during his second flight.
So from here onwards, they'll be on this bus and they'll be driving straight to the launch pad, right?
Yes, exactly.
I imagine it's very nervous.
Medics will come together with them, and also, that's the what you see is that they are wearing the IVA spacesuits. So it's different from the Feitian spacesuit. The IVA spacesuits ensure their safety during the launch and during the landing. And so you can notice that there were some slight change with previous missions. Usually they have to hold a very small box, which is used for ventilation. But today you can see that they don't need to hold it. It's just integrated on their spacesuit. So you can say this is also a small improvement.
That's right. That's a detail that you hadn't mentioned.
So as you asked, every time you can see some small improvement.
And these small improvements, I mean, there'll be things like making it more comfortable for the astronauts,
Yeah,
but also
more
technically
convenient.
safe.
Yeah.
And I mean, this is we're now we're just under 3 hours, right, until the launch time. So it's quite in advance.
Yeah.
They've got a lot of time leading up to the actual liftoff time. I mean, I know there's the tests that they have to do, the health checkups, but apart from that, why do they need so much time in preparation?
As I mentioned, the launch vehicle, the spacecraft is extremely complex.
Yeah.
So we need a very comprehensive test and examination to ensure the reliability and the normal function during the launch.
Could this not be done before, but could this not be done before the astronauts reach it then?
That for the astronaut, as I mentioned, the IVA spacesuit is second protection of their body. So we also need to ensure that, that it's also very complex. We need to ensure that the airtight sealing also is in a normal condition. And also, that after they come into the launch pad, they will use the lift to reach the 9th floor. And also, the ground crew from the Shenzhou spaceship system, from the astronaut system, will help the astronaut to complete all these examinations. And also, the medics will also double check their status. And also, they will help the astronaut to reach their seats and do the other things to help the astronaut. For instance, they will close the hatch between the orbital module and the re-entry capsule, and also close the hatch on the side of the orbital module, and also another panel on the payload fairing. So all these should be done within these, as you mentioned, within 3 hours. And also, the ground crew must withdraw from launch pad at least 1 or 2 kilometers away to ensure their safety
they need
during
time
the
for
launch.
that as well.
There are very large, loud noise and also high temperature and during the launch. So we should ensure the safety not only for the astronaut but also for the ground crew.
So they need all this time for precautions and extra precautions and double checks and triple checks. So there's the motorcade with the astronauts behind in the buses. This is at the Jiuquan Satellite Launch Center, and in under 3 hours' time, just under 3 hours' time, these astronauts will be lifting off to space. And Professor Yang, so another thing that's kind of special about this launch, for me especially, is that it's in the daytime. It's normally it's in the middle of the night, and we're all here, all red-eyed and ready, but excited and ready to see this launch. But this time it's
yes, this is also
5
this time
o'clock in the
is more
afternoon.
convenient for us. Yeah.
Yes.
So this is the reason lies in the fact that, as I mentioned, the Shenzhou spacecraft must be launched when the launch site rotates along with the Earth when it passing through the orbital plane of the Tiangong space station. But that this moment usually different every day. So sometimes it's it's at night, and sometimes it's in the daytime. So you don't have the choice.
Again, it's just pure coincidence.
Yes, exactly.
I mean, it makes sense, but it's also sort of hard to sometimes to think how much is left to just coincidence in that sense.
So,
right?
So there's no difference. That for the spacecraft orbiting the Earth in a low Earth orbit, several hundred kilometers altitude, usually that the speed is more than 7.8 kilometers per second. It's too fast. So even a slight difference on velocity will cause a great amount of propellant to correct it. So we don't have other choices. We just use what we call the zero launch window technology before. It means that the accuracy of the liftoff moment is better than 1 second.
But here's something else I've been interested in wondering. We talked about how the weather is so important, and in Jiuquan, which is in Gansu province, right, as Zheng Yibing was telling us, this is April is the season, worst time of year for sandstorms and wind, and these two elements that would obviously compromise a liftoff potentially. So if a launch window could come about every day, then why not just push it back by a few days in May when the weather, there's less risks, really?
Very good question. You can think about it. So every half a year, we have a turnover of this. You're correct. If we change the launch time to May,
just a few days, even.
But that if it is in May, it will be more convenient this time. But think about it for the next crew. Will be launched in December or November. So that will be very, very cold.
So it will just push back. So what you're saying is it will push back the whole schedule.
The 2 missions every half a year.
Well, they're definitely lucky today. I mean, from what we're looking at right now, these live pictures, you know, doesn't seem to be anything potentially compromising. No sandstorm and not even much movement of the trees there. So probably not much wind either, right?
You're very right. That's the wind. How strong it is a very important factor we should consider for the launch. So we have the criteria for the how fast the wind is on the ground, and also we not only consider that on the ground, but we also should consider it in a very high altitude, because you know that during the flight, the wind, if the speed is too fast, for instance, maybe during the altitude between 10 kilometers and 20 kilometers, it also will influence the safety of the spacecraft. So we must have a criteria to ensure the safety of the launch vehicle itself. And after jettisoning of the payload fairing, because you know at that moment the higher air density is already very, very low, we can recognize there's no much difference from the vacuum condition. So at that moment it will be relatively safe.
So what's a safe wind speed then, below 20 kilometers per hour?
It's different in different stages. So for the launch itself, you know that because you know that we have a very precise weather forecast, and for different stages, for instance, for the wind speed on the ground, have a different criteria with that on high altitude. You know that the altitude of the Jiuquan Satellite Launch Center is about 1,000 meters high. Is in a highland. So usually, as you mentioned, the wind is stronger than in Beijing, and also in April, especially in April and March, there are frequently we can see the sandstorms there because it's also near the Gobi Desert.
Right.
So we must consider about this for the launch. So you know that the consideration about the redundancy is always very important for the space industry and for space missions. So usually we have more resupplies in the Tiangong space station at least for 3 months. So even if anything wrong happened to the ground, to the landing site, to the launch site, we can still have the right chance and the time to prepare for launch, maybe several days later.
So the current crew up there would be able to extend their stay for up to 3 months.
Yeah. So this is another very important tolerance.
So I think we can see in the box next to the live pictures.
So on the right of the screen is the camera inside the re-entry capsule. You can see the 3 basins for the astronauts. So
this presumably is just the training that they've been doing. Ready for this, right?
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So on the left is the animation, I believe, for the EVA. You can see this is a camera mounted on an unmanned air vehicle. So you can see the whole scene of the Jiuquan Satellite Launch Center. I've been there in 2019.
Oh yeah? How was
but
that
the
experience?
best season for that is July and August.
And that was when you were there?
Very, very uncomfortable. And you know that the sky is extremely clear in Jiuquan Satellite Center. You can see you can see the Milky Way in the Jiuquan Satellite Center without any difficulty with your naked eyes.
So where is the launch pad? Is that the launch pad to the right of that?
Exactly. You can see the white one. No. That's the vehicle assembly building.
Not the one that's further away, but the closer one, right? In in the square there. That's the launch pad. Oh yeah.
So the distance between the VAB or the vehicle assembly building and the launch pad is about 1.5 kilometers.
And that's how the distance that the ground staff will need from the launch pad.
Yes.
Right?
Also, we can ensure the safety of the VAB with this distance. But it is very interesting that the Long March 2F Y-21 launch vehicle and the Shenzhou 21 spaceship is already there.
All right, well, we'll get back to Professor Yang in a minute, but we're also joined by Professor Zhang Fen now. He's with the Beijing Normal University Professor of Astronomy. Professor Zhang, good to have you on the show as well. So first of all, what are your expectations of this Shenzhou-20 mission?
Right. So this is going to be a fairly regular crew rotation. So mostly they will be up there doing science experiments. There's going to be like over 60 experiments, and 3 of them, interestingly, will be involving live creatures. There's a fish, there's a worm, basically, and also bacteria. So all of these experiments will be there to let scientists know how you can manage to live in a space environment in a very healthy and productive manner. So basically, China's space program is looking to do deep space missions and also utilizing low Earth orbit for things like even manufacturing. So all of that involve prolonged stay in space. So this kind of a live creature experiment will tell you basically how your body lose bone, how it cures itself, and how you can build up an ecosystem. You can plot stuff in space. So that'll be interesting to see what they get out of those experiments.
Well, another interesting development that we've heard announced in the last few days was that China will be training 2 Pakistani astronauts, and one of them will be going up to the Tiangong space station. So, all this international cooperation that we've been talking about for a long time now. What's your outlook for the future of this? It's an exciting development.
Right. So this is really a sign of deepening collaboration. So there are 2 aspects of it. First of all, so China's space program is pretty open, especially to developing countries, to the global south. So, for example, it doesn't privately invite capable space powers to form a small clique of worthy friends. It goes through United Nations, it goes through international conferences. Just today, through China's Space Day sort of activities, they announced open solicitations to participate in a Tianwen-3 mission. And this kind of very open solicitation means every country in the world, whether they already have much expertise or not, they can put in proposals, get on board, and then they can progress sort of gradually through a incrementally more sophisticated program. So beginning with simple payload, and then next going to build sort of rovers and stuff, infrastructure things, and then even sort of like in the case of Pakistan, who's been working with Chinese space agencies for a long time, they can now just get on the manned program as well. So that's one aspect, meaning that Pakistan is now really getting a foot in the sophisticated space powers club. The other aspect is that so the Pakistani astronaut will be more of a payload specialist, meaning that he or she will be carrying out experiments designed by Pakistani scientists. And this is vitally important for the Chinese space station to become an international scientific establishment. So this is the goal, and it will become very important in the future because the International Space Station is getting decommissioned. And the commercial space stations, they may or may not go up. And even if they go up, they're not going to carry your stuff up for free. Unlike the Chinese station that works on scientific protocols, so China shoulders the up and down going costs, and then you do the experiment. You shoulder the experiment cost. So for any sort of publicly funded science experiment that needs to be done in space, China's space station may become the only available choice. And international collaboration is vitally important for science because there's only like so many experts in any particular field, and they're spread really thin across the world. And so having this capability of having foreign astronauts, foreign even scientists, eventually going up to the Chinese station is one thing that needs to be done before it becomes a truly international science laboratory.
No, and certainly we'll be expecting to see more foreign nationals going up there. That'll be exciting to see the kind of collaboration projects that they'll be up to. Thank you so much, Professor Zhang Fan, joining us there. Well, Professor Yang, talking about this Pakistani payload specialist who will be going up, what sort of a format do you think that'll take? Will he be one of a 3-man crew, or do you think he'd be going up separately in addition to the normal setup of crew that we have? So there might be 4 people at the same time.
No. The capability of the Shenzhou spacecraft can only bring 3 taikonauts to outer space. But for the future, you know that for the MISSAO spacecraft, it can bring 7 astronauts to our Tiangong space station after it comes into use.
7 in one time.
For the future, but you know that for the Pakistani astronaut, maybe he will be, we will conduct the selection first. So there will be a preliminary selection, another the re-selection, and also the final selection. So after selection, usually it usually at least takes 2 years for the training.
2 years for the training. So there's 2 of them right now that are basically being past the initial selection stage.
The one selected and the other one as a backup. So the 2 Pakistani taikonauts will stay in the astronaut center of China for at least 2 years before they go to the real flight missions. But you know that's as I mentioned, the international cooperation is very important for China. We already have the joint experiments with other countries. Usually the devices that they've already reached the launch pad.
That's right. They've just exited the Chendong, followed by Chen Zhongrui and Wang Jie there.
Yes. So
they're looking pretty calm, all things considered.
They are full of confidence. But I believe they are very clear.
They just said that Tiangong, here we come.
So they will take the lift directly to the 9th floor.
And that's where they'll go straight into the pad after some tests and the checkups. So they are heading up in the lift. I mean, 9th floor.
This time also we have camera in the lift.
That's another improvement there.
So everything is improved.
9 floors, but we're not, this isn't sort of your regular building floor distance, right? We're talking 9 floors for this launch pad would be significantly higher than...
More than 9 floors, because you know that's the hatch of the side hatch of the orbital module is just have the similar height of the 9th floor. So that's the reason why we took them to the 9th floor. And also, you know, that's...
How many meters off the ground would this be then?
Yeah.
Well, how many meters would this be off the ground for them?
Oh, well, it's more than, I believe, more than 60 meters.
60 meters.
The total height of the launch complex.
Okay. Yeah, sorry. So you were saying about this selection process for future and international astronauts and cooperation.
So, as you asked, you know that in the future we can have a short-term visit of the foreign astronauts, and also we can have a long-term
and more frequent
at an ordinary crew turnover. So for the short one, they will stay there for maybe 1 week or 2 weeks. But for ordinary one, they will stay there for half a year. So we still need the formal announcement of China Manned Space Agency how it will be clarified. But you know that for short-term visits, we can have a solution if one of our Chinese astronauts can stay there for 1 year. The chief designer, Mr. Zhou Jianping, has mentioned years before that in the future, we also will conduct the test for Chinese astronauts to stay in orbit for 1 year continuously in the future, sooner or later. So this is one choice, and there's no technical difficulty, essentially speaking. So that's only a matter of choice. So we still need the formal announcement of the China Manned Space Agency.
Okay. So 1 year could be the longest that astronauts can stay up there, but you were saying about the shortened visits. So what's a sort of a feasible turnaround for that, though? A month, are we talking, maybe at a time?
Usually we should have a good balance between the cost and also the convenience of the impact of the gravity to astronaut. If you change the crew too frequently, there will be too much cost spent on the launch and landing of a single spacecraft. But if it lasts too long, it will have very serious impact on the bodies. So half a year is optimized. So there's no exception that in the International Space Station also usually the turnover takes about every every half a year. So there is no difference between China and other countries.
And it wouldn't be possible to leave the space station unmanned, right? At all
It's
times.
possible.
It is possible?
Yes, you know,
But
that's
is it
just
ideal?
you know that we don't have an in-orbit turnover during the Shenzhou 12 and the Shenzhou 13 mission. So we have the launch of the Shenzhou 12 and the Shenzhou 13 spacecraft to the Tiangong space station, and after the mission, they will go back to the Earth and switch the status of the station from a manned status to an unmanned status.
Oh. So right now the astronauts are sitting there. That's the hatch that they'll be going through a little
you
bit
can
later.
see the hatch on the payload fairing.
Yes, on the right side of the screen
they will enter the Shenzhou spaceship with this from this hatch.
And they're just waiting now to get a little health checkup, right, to make sure everything is okay.
So there will be many crew from the Shenzhou spaceship system and those from the astronaut system. They will have some necessary medical checks and also help the astronauts to configure their IVA spacesuit. We can hear the voice from the ground control of the Jiuquan Satellite Launch Center.
Just double checking that everything is in order.
Yes, they will not only check about the launch pad, the Shenzhou spaceship, and the launch vehicle. They will also check the status of each ground stations.
So this is the launch pad that we're looking at, the launch tower.
You know that the rescue team for the launch and for the re-entry is the same team. So this will save a large amount of money because all this will be conducted by the same rescue team. If so, during the ascending phase, if anything wrong happens to the launch vehicle and the Shenzhou spaceship, the rescue team can find the astronaut when they have an emergency landing as soon as possible.
So they're experienced in this already.
Yes.
So they're changing boots for them now.
They will take off their boots because the boots is a good protection and a very necessary protection to protect their IVA spacesuit.
They were taking it off just now, but they'll be putting it on a little bit later.
They've already taken off their boots.
And so they'll be entering the the spacecraft without their boots on.
Without, yeah.
And then they'll be putting it on later in the...
No.
They won't be again until they get on.
Estamos então aí acompanhando a cobertura especial aí da missão Shenzhou-20, missão tripulada chinesa. Neste momento, então, os astronautas chineses já se encontram então aí se preparando, né, para o embarque, então, aí no longo embarque 2F. Agora, pelo horário de Brasília, são 3 horas e 52 minutos. Dentro de instantes, então, aí teremos o lançamento programado, então, para as 6 horas e 17 minutos. Pelo horário de Brasília. WillPTV na cobertura, então, da missão Shenzhou-20.
Because they have assigned seats, don't they, inside the spacecraft?
Because you know that the re-entry capsule has a very narrow volume, so we have to enter that in a specified sequence.
So at this point now, they've probably not had any food or water for a while in preparation for this, and I mean they won't be really eating again until they reach the launch, reach the space station.
No. If they want to eat or drink, they can eat and drink after the launch.
After the launch, right? But
only the launch only takes less than 10 minutes. So when after the deployment of the or unfolding of the solar panels, they will that the launch site will announce the success of the launch, and after that they can open their helmet and they can drink and eat.
Okay. Well, you see the hatch door is open now. The hatch is open and they're passing some gear inside. I assume this is for doing the
They
tests.
still have the ground staff inside the orbital module and inside the re-entry capsule to check and examine everything. And also they will help the astronauts to go inside. Because you know that at this moment we're still under the influence of the Earth's gravity, so we must be very careful. So it's in a vertical status. So the orbital module is just above the re-entry capsule. So we must enter the orbital module first, and then go down to the re-entry capsule.
So we're just looking at that little panel to the right there. That's just giving some stats there. We've got 2 hours and 23 minutes to go until launch. The wind speed is only 1.2 meters per second. That seems pretty good, pretty calm.
Wow,
And,
that's a very good condition.
Yeah, 24 degrees.
Very
and high
comfortable.
visibility, more higher than over 20 kilometers. And then the cloud, it says that the last...
0.
Yeah. So this is pretty ideal conditions then. They've waited. There was some concern leading up to this day.
I also visited this launch complex in 2019. It's really impressive. So this very large launch complex, and you know that you can see that the service tower can hold the launch vehicle very tightly and form a closed volume to protect the launch vehicle with the right temperature, with the right humidity, and also it has air conditioners to keep it in a very good status. Also, you can also notice besides the blue arms and platforms, there are also some orange arms to connect it with the launch vehicle.
Right.
We can hear the voice of the ground control.
It's
the commander of the Jiuquan Satellite Launch Center. He's still checking everything.
And they're checking with the various different stations, monitoring stations across China, right, which will be tracking the route of the spacecraft.
Yeah. As I mentioned, we adopted the zero launch window since the Shenzhou-8 mission.
Right.
But after so many years, we also extend the zero launch window to we call a narrow launch window, which means that we can utilize the margin because you know that the capability of the launch vehicle is stronger than we needed. So you can use this margin to wider the launch window from 0 to maybe several seconds or even several minutes. So this can increase the reliability and the possibility of the success of a mission.
Professor, do we know how the payload capacity of the Chinese spacecrafts compare internationally? I mean, so this one's now increased by 20%. Is that a large number compared to what other different space agencies are capable of?
Well, 20% is a comparison with itself, with the past configuration.
So the total capacity.
This is because we already optimized many subsystems of the Shenzhou spacecraft. Oh, you can see this is a camera mounted inside the orbital module. You can see cargoes everywhere.
And you can also see how small that space is inside.
Yeah, exactly. So the total volume of the orbital module and the re-entry capsule, I believe that the total volume is about 7 cubic meters. So it's very narrow space. And you've already seen that, as I mentioned on the previous video, the camera mounted inside the orbital module. Today we use the orbital module also as a cargo bay. For bringing more scientific research instruments to the Tiangong space station. Also, I believe there are fresh fruit inside to bring some for the Shenzhou-19 crew because they have already for a long time they need some new fresh fruit.
They also do grow some vegetables up at the space station, right? I remember seeing a report about that, saying they can grow.
Quite right.
Some greens.
They can enjoy the vegetables planted by themselves, but usually it's only a very small amount.
And simple things to grow, right? Like lettuce.
The first one to taste the vegetable, I think, is just during the Shenzhou 14 mission, Mr. Cai Xuzhe. I can still remember that this is also another coincidence. You know that Mr. Cai Xuzhe is the commander of the Shenzhou-19 crew. But Mr. Chen Zhongrui
let me just interrupt you there, Professor Yang. So we've got the astronauts going in there. That's Wang Jie heading in first.
Exactly. 03.
Yes.
His code is 03. He will go first.
And he has to lie down and scoot in.
You can see that the ground crew help him to protect the helmet from any damage.
And there's still someone inside helping to bring him in as well.
Exactly. So he will go first. Yeah, this is the orbital module.
It's an incredible speed. So. So, you know, as you're saying that they've increased the payload so they can store more cargo in there, but does that compromise in how much space the astronauts have? You know, will they have less space in order to accommodate more gear?
But you know that we conduct the faster rendezvous, don't you? So it's not very necessary. If this stays there for 2 days, it will be another matter.
Okay. So they can manage to be squished for a little bit.
Yeah. So the ground crew helped Dr. Wang Jie to go from the orbital module here to go down to the re-entry capsule.
Then he'll be strapping himself in. The crew doesn't go into the module itself, do they?
Yeah. So there is another hatch between the orbital module and the re-entry capsule. So Mr. Wang Jie is already entered the re-entry capsule.
And who will be 02? Who's
03.
going in? He's 03.
He's a flight engineer for this mission.
And the 02 will be Chen Zhongrui.
Exactly. So Dr. Wang Jie is a third flight engineer for China space missions. The first one is Mr. Zhu Yangzhu. The second is Ms. Wang Haoze, and he's the third one.
So this was pretty much the setup that the composition that we can expect for all future.
Yeah. So what you see, look, this is a camera mounted inside the re-entry capsule.
There's Chen Zhongrui about to go in 02 there.
He will be the second to enter the capsule.
And the last to be the captain.
So Mr. Chen Zhongrui is also a pilot. He will be the backup of Commander Chen Dong during the ascending phase and during the landing phase. If anything wrong happened to the autonomous piloting mode, they will switch to manual pilot. So they can be recognized as backup of each other to ensure the safety.
Professor, how much time would these three men have spent with each other prior to taking this space mission? You know, the training they'd have to do, they'd have to know each other incredibly well. Are we talking half a year, even longer?
Usually 1 or 2 years. When the crew is the combination is confirmed. Usually,
how many? There'd be several combinations, right? Sort of backups.
Exactly. So 3 as the major crew and another 3 as the backup crew. So the crew must very compatible with each other.
But then the backup crew, I say if the backup crew is called up, would it be all 3 of the backups, or would they just take the place of whoever isn't able to go in?
This depends. So it's possible to change only one of them. Also, maybe all of them will be changed. So it depends on the decision of the commander.
So it means that essentially 6 people would have to work and live together and train together very closely for 1 to 2 years.
So you can see that Mr. Chen Zhongrui or 02 will sit on the right side, on the right basin. And you know that the 02 has another very important role during the landing. He will in charge of cutting the ropes of the parachute.
Yes.
Because only on his side we have the button.
So in terms of the selection process for these astronauts, I mean, the technical skills is one thing, but physically, what sort of standards do they have to meet? What sort of criteria is there?
There are all kinds of criteria, including the psychological considerations.
Yeah, that too.
So not only their physical condition, their knowledge and their scores in the every examination is very important, but also, as I mentioned, they must be friends of each other. Usually they recognize themselves as brothers and sisters.
So I mean that too. I mean that's such an important consideration, considering they'll be spending 6 months with each other on this fairly confined space. So if they don't get along.
Even today, although we already have 3 modules, but you know that for half a year, residence is still a very narrow space for 3 people to stay there.
For sure.
So the psychological problems is very frequently seen in manned space, in long-term manned space activities. So we must consider it very carefully.
So I mean, it's not even just being friends. It's also important that they can really trust each other, right?
Yeah,
Depend on each other. So here's the captain, Chen Dong, going in. He'll be sitting in that center seat there, 01.
Yeah. So
but they won't be. Sorry, they won't be needing to pull the helmet down at any point.
Not this moment. During the launch, they will close the hatch, the helmet window. Close the helmet window to ensure that they have airtight sealing. If there any leakage of the capsule, the IVA spacesuit will provide the secondary protection for their bodies
instead of that little box that they were carrying before, right?
Yeah.
That's the upgrade. What's he signing off there?
This is a form for the checking the status of every aspect. So not everything is electronic versions. So we still need this autographed ones.
So they'll be heading in there, and then they'll be waiting in there for another 2 hours before the actual liftoff.
Yeah. So still many preparations we need, and the Mr. Chen Dong, you know that he's commander, so he's in charge of everything.
Yeah, it's taking him a longer time to get into the actual module. I guess he's doing final checks as well.
So with the help of the ground crew, he will finally enter the re-entry capsule and sit in the middle.
So 2 hour and 12-minute wait.
Yeah. So you can see how narrow it is, and so they can only enter one by one. And also 02 and 03 must go first.
That's just out of a practical concern. And we can hear, once again, the Beijing Aerospace Command Center checking in with various different stations.
So you can see that from this camera tool, we can on the near side is Mr. Wang Jie, and on the far side is the Mr. Chen Zhongrui, and Commander Chen Dong will sit in the middle. So every basin is specially designed for the for the certain astronauts to fit their shape of their body to give the maximum protection during the launch and the landing.
So they're all signing this form now, and I presume that's what was that a checklist as well? So you were saying that the temperature can be very well regulated in this space.
There are ventilations and also air conditioners inside. So the temperature is really comfortable for the astronauts.
Like a 20 degrees?
Maybe 20 to 22, 25 degrees Celsius. But you know that because the IVA spacesuit should provide the right protection in case of any leakage. So usually it's relatively weak for bring the heat outside. So we need the ventilation devices to keep it cool enough. Because without the ventilation system, the astronaut will feel very, very hot.
And this is much lighter than the EVA suit, the extravehicular suit.
Much simpler than the EVA spacesuit. So
what's the weight difference?
You know that this IVA spacesuit is not an independent one. So you can see that they will connect a pipe to their bodies. So they will provide the electricity, provide the ventilation, provide the oxygen from the spacecraft itself. So that is the reason why it can be much smaller and much lighter than the EVA spacesuit.
How light are we talking about, and how many kilos?
Well, I believe that it's less than 20 kilograms.
Less than 20 kilos. I mean, we say light, but that's still a lot of weight to be carrying around, though.
Ensure it can work in vacuum conditions.
That's true. So, it certainly looks bulky, but the EVA then, what's the
EVA
weight
is about 130 kilograms, I believe.
130 kilos.
Very, very heavy.
Would they have to wear these and train in these on the ground as well? But obviously,
not in every circumstances. For some training, they can wear the ordinary clothes.
Well, because we're talking 130 kilos, but then again, they're in the microgravity environment, so they're not feeling that weight.
You know, that's the most dangerous part of a flight mission is during the launch or the ascending phase, and also during the landing. So only in these two phases, and also in that some critical moment, for instance, during the docking phase, they need to wear the IVA spacesuit. Which usually, you know that in these phases, it is most possible case to cause some leakage of their capsule. That is the reason they must wear the spacesuits during these phases. But in other moments, not very necessary.
So, Professor Yang, just talk us through what we can expect next. So, for the next hour or so, this will just be the ground staff, all the teams doing the extra checks.
Yeah.
And then the astronauts themselves will just be sort of taking it easy inside, waiting.
No, they will be very, very busy. Usually, you can see that maybe the commander or the pilot will hold his manual. So on the handbook, not only it has the instruction of the normal procedure, also have everything every instruction in abnormal conditions. This is one important factor for the training of astronauts.
This is something he must have read time and time again. You know, he must know it just completely off by
For the
heart.
ordinary people, usually it means so boring. But for the astronauts, you must be patient enough.
But he must know it inside out.
You must know it.
Yeah.
You must be aware what could happen at this moment.
So for the astronauts, it's basically revising, going through the manual, making sure that they know what to do again and again, what to do in every eventuality.
Yeah. So you can see that I believe that within 7 minutes, we can see the rotational platform on the top will be opened. This is because you know that after the hatch of the Shenzhou spacecraft is closed by the ground staff, so if anything wrong happened, you know that I believe at this moment the Long March 2F spacecraft is full of propellants.
Right. That's ready to be fueled up.
Nitrogen tetroxide and UDMH, so very dangerous things. So if anything wrong happened, to ensure the safety of the ground team and to ensure the safety of the crew, the Shenzhou 20 crew, we must activate the emergency escape system.
Right.
To make it possible to work, we must expose the emergency escape system to the open space. So that is the reason why we open the top one first.
That's the escape, the emergency escape. So just remind us again, when we get a picture in a minute of the launch tower again, so where they are right now, are they near the top of the tower? Are they near the middle part of the tower?
This is, as I mentioned, this is a camera mounted inside the orbital module.
Yeah.
So it's inside the payload fairing of the Long March 2F launch vehicle. So it's near the top of the launch complex. Okay. As we mentioned, you can see so many packages.
Yes.
So these are I believe, including these packages, there are the zebrafish. The second time.
The last time the fish went up was when? When was that?
In Shenzhou 18 mission. Okay, we heard from the ground control center that the 3 hours, T-minus 3 hours countdown has already been accomplished. You know that as we already discussed, in different phases of the countdown, we have the checking of different systems.
Yes.
So this time, when the ground commander has announced that the T-minus 3 hours countdown has already accomplished, which means that many subsystems has already been checked okay. It's go for launch.
I mean, obviously, they will want to leave nothing to chance, and the teams will have checked things again and again to minimize risks. But if we're talking about, you know, the potentially things that could go wrong, what sort of aspects what would be the most risky aspects here that they'd want to double check and triple check and make sure it's okay? What are the biggest risks here for?
Well, during the launch phase, so if anything wrong happened, for these kind of things do happen before in other countries, you know that maybe the propellants will be ignited, or maybe some explosion will happen. So the emergency escape system of the Soyuz launch vehicle do save the lives of the cosmonauts before with the help of this system. So that is the reason for you know that in space industry, the spacecraft, the launch vehicle, usually we have a very small class called the human-rated launch vehicle, which means that this launch vehicle, the reliability is high enough to bring human into outer space.
Right.
So today, the only human-rated launch vehicle in China is the Long March 2F. Sorry. Not only the reliability is very high, but also it has an emergency escape system different from any other launch vehicle in China.
And that's why then as soon as the astronauts have gone in and sat down, they open up that top level, as you were saying, to enable the escape
top
hatch.
Rotational platforms
to
expose the emergency escapes to the open space. So maybe at this moment, the ground staff is now closing the hatch of the side hatch of the orbital module.
Right. And then in a few minutes, they'd come out and they'd close this hatch that we're seeing here
on the payload fairing.
And then it's just a matter of kind of waiting and checking.
Yeah. So we can see the monitoring cameras. So on the bottom right is the camera in the re-entry capsule. On the top right is the camera inside the orbital module.
Now, they're all very well suited up and masked up as well, and I presume this is to try and keep the environment as safe as possible for the astronauts as well.
Exactly. And also, you know that they are not only waiting for the ignition, but also you can see that on the bottom right just now, the camera shows that the astronauts are doing some preparation works. For instance, they need to fasten the safety belt. And also, they need also to, from the instrument inside the capsule, they need to check if the status is okay.
Right. And once they start with the other rotational platforms, that's when the ground staff will want to be leaving the vicinity, right?
So they will leave the launch complex in different batches.
Right.
And we must count if it is the right number.
Yeah, make sure everyone's there.
Yeah. So
no one will be there. No, there's no one.
No one will be left
at
there
the launch pad
except the astronauts.
Right.
So it is very interesting, you know, that in this service tower there is a very long channel for the ground crew to go very fast down to the underground protections. So this is very interesting, and many of my colleagues experience the fast descending
on a lift. Or would it be
no.
Like a fireman's pole?
This is a very soft pipe. You can stay there and with your arms to keep slow down your speed.
So like a slide?
Exactly. So you know that in emergency
from the top
cases, it's
platform
necessary
there's
to
a slide to go all the way down.
You know that, as I mentioned, these kind of dangerous things do happen in other countries before. So abnormally, the launch vehicle ignited. The engines ignited. So this is a very extremely dangerous thing for the ground crew.
Absolutely.
So we must have the countermeasure to meet this kind of uncertainty.
So you're saying that they have essentially a chute there, like a slide from the top platform all the way down to the
underground,
and so they can get down there in a couple of seconds.
So there is a closed room to ensure their safety, to isolate the high temperature, the vibration of the ignition of the engines.
And that's something that has been in place in the launch pad for several
since the construction. We've already have this measure.
That's actually the first time that I think we've talked about this. That's pretty fascinating, actually.
So this is very necessary because you know that one very remarkable feature of a manned space mission is the ground team leave the complex very late because they need to take care of the astronauts and do every necessary steps.
All right. Well, we've got our reporter Zheng Yibing, who's at the launch pad there, and let's bring him in again to find out a bit more of what's happening on the ground there. Hi, Yibing. So we've been watching the astronauts, get into the spacecraft to make themselves comfortable there. What are you seeing there? What more can you tell us?
Well, yes, Joya, now it's about 2 hours ahead of the launch time of the Shenzhou-20 manned spacecraft. And the Shenzhou-20 crew members have arrived at the launch complex behind me after they set out from the Wentiangge Prevailing Residential Compound for the Taikonauts. And it is also the time for them to get adapted to the Shenzhou-20 spacecraft. We know the Shenzhou-20 spacecraft has upgrades this time, with its carrying space and capacity increased by about 20%. For more about the status of the spacecraft, joining me now is Ms. Lu Guqing from China Aerospace Science and Technology Corporation. 罗老师您好，我们想了解一下我们这个航天员现在已经进入到了神舟20号飞船当中。那么现在这个飞船已经做了一些什么样的准备？给航天员们呢？
Right now, after minus T, the 3.5 hours, and everything right now is also waiting for the final tracks because we also powered the rocket, and also we check that the return capsule, and also they're waiting for the technocts to arrive in the space station. So another question, we know that the Shenzhou-20 this time, and compared to the previous series, also have some upgraded, right? So would you please introduce a little bit about these upgrades? For the manned spacecraft, the main purpose is to be really good on safety and security and send our taikonauts to the space station. So we talk about the safety is above everything else. So we guarantee the safety, and then we look at the whole system, and also when it's upgrading and low grading of all these payloads, we try to save more spaces, try to upgrade and low grade more payloads. And this time, the orbit capsule, so that's also the loading capsule. We also to further save more places in terms of laying out our DA spaces, so that helps to save the places by 20%. And we know this year, and especially today, actually marks the 10th anniversary of Chinese Space Day. And also we talk about today is also a very meaningful day. From your angle, how you connected significance of today. So the manned space mission launched today. That is also the 5th launch at the technology application stage, and also the 15th manned space mission. 55 years ago, Dongfeng Hong 1 also launched today. So it's of great significance. We talk about, we also carry forward the fan tradition and also showcase that we could actually manufacture a satellite. Right now, we could send taconauts to the space to explore the space. I believe that's very, very meaningful. And going forward, we will conduct more research and understanding about the space, so that could let us get more knowledge and utilize the space. Thank you very much, Ms. Wu, and wish that the mission a great success.
Thank you so much. That's Ms. Lu Guqing from the China Aerospace Science and Corporation. And that's the information shared by the Ms. Luo after the taconauts enter the spacecraft. The launch sequence will proceed, and the different revolving platforms at the launch complex will open one by one until the flat combination of the Long March 2F carrier rocket with the Shenzhou-20 spacecraft on top of it will show up completely. And for the next steps of the launch mission, we will keep you updated. Back to you, Zhang.
Yibing, thank you so much, and we'll be speaking to you again a little bit later, I'm sure, as Zheng Yibing at the launch pad there. Well, Professor Yang, so I want to ask you a little bit more about some of the experiments that we'll see the Shenzhou-20 crew do, or some of the tasks they'll be doing up at the space station. Now, the zebrafish that we're talking about, what will they be testing? What would they be looking to find with this fish?
Well, that's the that during the experiments conducted by the scientists and astronauts of other countries, zebrafish is a very standard sample for biological study in outer space, like the mouse and some plants. Yeah. So last time, with success of the experiments conducted by the Shenzhou-18 crew during the Shenzhou-18 mission, that's the first time they bring zebrafish into outer space. So this time, the experiments will be different. We will study the impact of the microgravity to animals like the fish, to the proteins in their bodies, and also the impact of the microgravity and radiation to other aspects of their bodies. Moreover, this time we will also have microbe and some what we call the tabellarium worm, very, very special one. The influence of the microgravity to these kind of animals and other creatures. So the biological study is one important feature of the Shenzhou-20 mission, but also we will have some microgravity physics and also space medicine and other these kind of studies. Moreover, we will also have the installation of the protection devices outside the Tiangong space station. So this is a very necessary, because today the space debris is more and more serious than before.
Yeah, so tell us a bit more about that, this installation of protective devices. So this will probably require extravehicular activities by these astronauts, right? And what will these protective devices look like? What will they be doing?
Well,
apart from protecting
sorry. You can see that the 03 Dr. Wang Jie has already closed his helmet.
Ah, yes.
Then Mr. Chen Zhongrui. So, as I mentioned, so the IVA spacesuit is the second protection for their safety if any leakage happened. Oh, Mr. Chen Dong also closed the face mask off.
Is that not too early for them to start on this? They've got 2 hours to go until they take off.
It says T-minus 2 hours and counting. Yeah. So as shown on the screen, we will have the first integrated examination, which means that we will have the examination not only for the you can see the 3D animation of the lift off. Right. So this is a very necessary simulation which has all kinds of parameters, and most of them is the same one as a real lift off. So this is integrated examination, or we can see this as a drill of the all systems, including the Shenzhou spaceship, the launch vehicle system, the launch site system, the telemetry and the telecontrol communication system, and also the rescue team. So they will in their right position and check everything. You can see the 3D animation of the lift-off. And also, at this moment, although everything is simulated, but it's very close to the real one.
Is that why also the astronauts are now getting completely ready and then setting up for the actual launch? So once they've got their helmet down and the hatch is closed, the pressure, everything inside the module will be basically set to be ready for launch already.
That's why it is necessary to conduct this simulation. You know that there are all kinds of parameters of our old systems, but some of the parameters can only be determined before the launch. For instance, as we already discussed, the weather condition and also the trajectory can only be determined several hours or even several minutes before the launch. So how we can judge it is correct? So we need this kind of simulation to test if any problem still remains.
Right. So looking at their suits just now, and they have a lot of things bundled up on their knees there. Is that what's the reason for that? I mean, there seems to be extra padding on the knees of the spacesuit. Is that just a design thing, or is there some purpose to that as well?
Sorry. You can see that the platform, the rotary platform on the top has already been turned open. Yeah. So this means that probably the emergency escape system has already been activated. So on your question, you know that I can still remember that one disaster happened many years before, actually speaking in 1971, during the Soyuz 11 mission, when the 3 cosmonauts made history. You know that it is just during the Soyuz 11 mission, it is the first time that the cosmonaut entered a manned space station, the Salyut 1. But when they came back to the Earth, the disaster happened because they only wear the ordinary suit, not the IVA space suit. So because of the malfunction of a valve in their re-entry capsule, so it caused the leakage of all the air inside the cabin. So the 3 cosmonauts lost their life in only several seconds. Very extremely painful. So that's the only disaster we lost the life of our cosmonauts above the common line. Right. So this is the only example. So you can see how important the IVA spacesuits is.
So it's critical that they wear it at all stages of the launch and then the return, right?
Yeah. In every critical step, not only the launch and the landing, but also that during the rendezvous and docking, and also sometimes during the visiting of other spacecraft to the station, they also need to wear their IVA spacesuit. You know that sometimes there are collisions. These things do happen before. I can still remember in the what's called the Progress 3-4. Progress 3-4 mission. It is a resupply mission for the Mir space station. The Progress M34 collide with the Mir space station, caused the leakage of one of its module, the Spectrum module, and the module itself lost all this air and be closed permanently.
In a situation like that, in an emergency situation like that, then the Chinese IVA suit, the suits, how long can they sustain the astronauts for? How many hours of, say, oxygen can it supply?
Good question. As we already discussed, the EVA spacesuit is not an independent one. It needs a power supply, it needs oxygen supply, it needs a ventilation from the cabin, from the capsule. So this depends on the storage of the oxygen, the electricity inside the re-entry capsule. So maybe several hours.
But so they're sitting down. They obviously came in independently with these suits on. They sat down. Have they hooked the suit up to the module itself? When you say it can't be independent of the module. Are they,
so for the EVA spacesuit, absolutely it can work independently, because they need to go outside the station and to go from this place to that in a very long distance.
Yeah.
But
these ones that they're wearing now, the IVAs.
IVA spacesuit.
Are they hooked up?
Much lighter and much thinner than the EVA spacesuit.
But you were saying they can't be independent of the module. They kind of depend on the module. But do they need to be hooked up to the module?
Yeah, exactly. So that's the reason they need a pipe. Connect and also there are cables inside to connect with their spacecraft. So you can see the emergency escape tower. Actually speaking, it is a solid rocket engine with several nozzles. So in an emergency case, it can ignite and bring the re-entry capsule and the orbital module leave the launch vehicle as soon as possible in a very fast acceleration. So this is a major difference from a human-rated launch vehicle to an ordinary launch vehicle. It must be have a very, very high reliability itself, and also have an independent emergency escape system to increase its reliability for the astronauts.
Do you know, Professor Yang, what China's aerospace program is working on improving next? You know, are there any, I guess, technical difficulties that they want to overcome or trying to improve on for the next launch, for the next crew that's going up? For example, you know, shortening any of these times, you know, rendezvous and docking, is that a concern? Is that something they want to do anytime soon? Shorten it down to like 4 hours, maybe 5 hours?
As I mentioned, for the Tianzhou spacecraft, we've already conducted 3-hour fast rendezvous and docking. But you know that honestly speaking, the 6 hours is already comfortable enough for the astronauts, because after the happening of the motion sickness in microgravity environment, they've already entered the Tiangong space station in a very large volume, so that will be very, very comfortable for them. And
so no major challenges or major difficulties that the aerospace program kind of is focused on?
As we already discussed, for even already it is an ordinary routine for us, but still there are so many factors that is really, really risky. And also we must be extremely careful for any step, although it's already a routinary step. But you know that still at any moment we have so many uncertainty. For instance, you have the weather forecast for the wind, but still maybe even in a very clear weather, you know that the electric field in the atmosphere, still we must consider about it. So you know that the lightning is extremely dangerous for a flying object. So we must consider about the electric field near the launch pad. And also, besides the wind condition, we also must consider about the weather condition along the trajectory. Because you know that in emergency cases, we maybe have emergency descending to the ground or even to the ocean. So the rescue team, not only including the helicopters, the ground vehicles, but also some vessels in the Pacific Ocean. So we also must consider the constraints of these kind of things. Moreover, every time, usually we also have the space tracking ships in the Pacific Ocean. So we also must consider about the weather condition, the sea, the condition of the ocean itself, to ensure that it can track the trajectory and provide a communication link between the ground stations and the Shenzhou spaceship.
So it's all about just refining a lot of this technology, just making everything safer, more reliable.
Yeah. Although you know that every time we have some small improvement. For instance, today the Shenzhou spaceship usually we have as we've already seen, that we have the camera mounted everywhere. We have the live streams even during the flight. So today, the quality of the video has already been greatly improved. We can see very, very clear video. Aggregating the resolution is high definition, follows the high definition standard. And also, you know that with why we can increase the capability 20%, because many subsystems are minimized with the improvement of technology. For instance, many electronics can be minimized because capability and the volume and mass can be minimized for the Shenzhou spaceship. So we can freeze the space and freeze the mass for either for the payload or for the cargo bay. So this is the reason why the general specification of our Shenzhou spaceship do not have much changed. But every time we can spare more volume resources for the scientific research.
Well, Professor Yang, thank you so much, and we will continue our discussion a little bit later. You are watching CGTN special coverage of China's launch of the Shenzhou-20 crewed spacecraft, and it will be heading to the Tiangong space station. It'll be lifting off at 5:17 p.m., so that is now in under 2 hours' time. And it'll be from the Jiuquan Satellite Launch Center in northwest China, which is what we've been looking at, the pictures that we've been looking at there. Do stay tuned for our live coverage. So to bring you up to speed on the latest on the Shenzhou-20 crewed launch to the Tiangong space station, the 3 taikonauts, Commander Chen Zhongrui and Wang Jie, they have entered the cabin, the space module, and they are preparing for the liftoff, which is in under 2 hours' time at 5:17 Beijing time. Do stay tuned to see the latest. After a short break, my colleague Hona will be here to bring you some news headlines from across the world.
Facing the unknown is always difficult.
各号注意，我是景山，景山初给根数及分离点参数已发出，东风。
东风收到。
华山。
华山收到。
各号注意，我是东风，各号请收集第一次综合检查情况。景山。
景山明白。
华山。
华山明白。
08号。
第一次综合检查正常。
太原。
第一次综合检查正常。
渭南。
第一次综合检查正常。
青岛。
第一次综合检查正常。
酒泉。
第一次综合检查正常。
青山。
第一次综合检查正常。
双城。
第一次综合检查正常。
5号。
第一次综合检查正常。
东风，我是景山。
我是东风，景山请讲。
景山、江阴、天路及长江3号第一次综合检查正常。
东风明白。
东风，我是华山。
我是东风，华山请讲。
华山第一次综合检查正常。
东风明白。北京东风报告。
我是北京东风，请讲。
各号注意，我是东风，收集航天员进舱后话音检查准备情况。北京。
北京明白。
酒泉。
状态准备完毕。 东风，我是北京。
东风到。
状态准备完毕。
东风明白。0号，我是东风。
0号到。
话音检查准备完毕。
明白。
东风，我是0号，航天员进舱后换衣检查正常。
东风明白。北京东风报告。
我是北京东风，请讲。
高号注意，我是东风，话音检查正常。北京。
北京明白。
酒泉。
明白。
东风，我是景山。
我是东风，景山请讲。
景山预置指令已发出。
东风明白。
北京景山报告。
我是北京景山，请讲。
景山报告测量船当前海况及2小时准备情况：长江3号海况3级，浪高1米，风力4级，能见度15公里。景山天路长江3号2小时准备完毕。景山报告完毕。
北京明白。我是北京江阴，请讲。北京明白。
北京华山报告。
我是北京华山，请讲。
华山2小时准备完毕。华山报告完毕。
北京明白。
各号注意，收集2小时准备情况。0号。
2小时准备完毕。
太原。
2小时准备完毕。
渭南。
2小时准备完毕。
青岛。
2小时准备完毕。
酒泉。
2小时准备完毕。
青山。
2小时准备完毕。
双城。
2小时准备完毕。
5号。
2小时准备完毕。
天仓。
2小时准备完毕。
北京东风报告。
我是北京东风，请讲。
东风2小时准备完毕，报告完毕。
北京明白。
各号注意，我是北京，1小时准备。东风，
东风明白。
华山，
华山明白。
江阴，景山，景山明白。
各号注意，1小时准备。0号，
明白。
太原，
明白。
渭南，
明白。
青岛，
明白。
酒泉，
明白。
青山，
明白。
双城，
明白。
5号，
明白。
天仓。
And also for the Shenzhou-20 team to begin their 6-month stay up on board the China space station. And also with just an hour to go until the launch of Shenzhou-20, here at Beijing Aerospace Control Center, we see a lot of determination and anticipation with all eyes on the spacecraft in Jiuquan. Back to you, Jiayang.
Li Xuan, thank you so much. That's our reporter at the Beijing Aerospace Command Center. And meanwhile, we are looking at live pictures from Jiuquan at the launch center there. That is the rocket, the spacecraft there, and we're seeing the ground team doing some final preparations as they get ready to close the hatch. And we are now in the final hour. We've entered the final hour of the countdown before liftoff. And we have about, well, 58 minutes to go until the liftoff. So very exciting times now. Professor Yang, just talk us through some of the key checkpoints now until liftoff in this final hour.
From the left of the screen, you can see the camera in the launch complex at the 9th floor of the launch complex. You can see that at this right moment, the hatch of the orbital module, the side hatch, has already been closed. Look, and by this moment, the hatch on the payload fairing is still not closed now. So I believe the next step will be the ground team will close the hatch. So this is the operation of the launch vehicle system. Because you know that the payload fairing is a very important part of the launch vehicle. And after the close of the hatch of the payload fairing, I believe that this will be the what we call the T-1 hour and counting. And so at this moment, I believe there will be another very important simulation of the whole launch procedure. So at this moment, many other parameters of the mission has already been confirmed, and at this moment, we can conduct another simulation like the previous one, just 1 hour before, a very comprehensive one. You can see this as another drill.
Professor, I just want to draw your attention to what that ground staff there is doing. It looks like he's cleaning the outsides of that hatch door. Is that just to make sure that there's
exactly
the seal is perfect,
to make that to ensure that the seal is effective. So this is very important. You know that during the flight, especially during the initial stage, because of the high speed of the Long March 2F launch vehicle, so there will be very remarkable aerodynamic forces acting on the payload fairing. So if the airtight sealing is not a perfect one, so maybe some of the leakage cause the airstream to influence the safety of the orbital module. So this is very, very necessary and reasonable.
Right, so they leave literally nothing to chance. Everything is very meticulous. It's just checked and double checked.
So you may notice that just on the top of in the center of the top of the screen, you can see a small cylindrical part.
Yes.
So this is a rocket engine, which can also be part of the emergency escape system. So you know that in this emergency escape system, we not only have the emergency escape tower. So the tower is a solid rocket engine, but also we have some other engines on the payload fairing. So usually after 120 seconds after the liftoff, usually we will jettison the emergency escape tower. But still, this is still a moment very, very dangerous for the Shenzhou spaceship. So if anything wrong happened to the launch vehicle, we can use the motor on the payload fairing to conduct the emergency escape.
Right, and you were saying that's very critical, and that was one of the first steps that they did as soon as the astronauts entered the cabin, right? They opened the tower so that the escape.
Yes, but you can look to the right of the screen. You can see that still there is a pipe connected to the payload fairing. So at this moment, still, we have the electricity supply, we have the air conditioning for the inner volume of the payload
They've
fairing.
just detached that pipe now, though.
Yeah.
So does that mean now the payload fairing, the rocket is on its own? Is
it can work on its own. Right. But this moment, I believe that for the Shenzhou spaceship and for the Long March 2F launch vehicle, still we get the power supply from the ground, from the launch complex, because we must save the energy of the storage batteries inside the launch vehicle and inside the Shenzhou spaceship.
When can we expect that to be detached then?
Usually several seconds before the launch. Okay. So you can see, look, on the service tower, there are some, besides these blue rotational platforms, there are also some arms, mechanical arms in orange color. So there are pipes and cables on these arms, so still connected to the launch vehicle. So you can see on the right of screen, it shows that it is T-minus 1 hour and counting, and also it's conducting the second integrated simulation and examination.
How many of these integrated examinations will we see before the actual liftoff?
Well, like the last one, we can see the 3D animation of the liftoff. So it's only last, I believe that maybe 10 minutes or so, because you know that's the flight from the liftoff to the unfolding of the solar panels. Usually it takes about 10 minutes.
And at this point, until liftoff, the astronauts themselves, they're just in the module now, and as you were saying, they're just reading through these manuals, just getting themselves kind of psychologically prepared as well for this and all circumstances.
And you may notice that just during the previous part of our live coverage, each of the Shenzhou 20 crew close the face mask of their helmet, and at this moment they will check the airtight sealing, if it is effective, if there is any malfunction of their IVA spacesuit. So if anything wrong, we must stop and to handle this problem of their IVA spacesuit, because this is extremely important protection for their lives, as we mentioned, for every manned mission during the liftoff. So even if the re-entry capsule has some leakage, but still they can keep themselves safe enough with the IVA spacesuit.
Right. Yeah, you can't be too careful with that.
Yeah.
And we're looking at the stats right now on the right, talking about the conditions on the ground there, and it does seem like everything is in good order. I mean, this is, something they've been concerned about in the lead up to the launch, right? Worried about sandstorms in the area. So, the sandstorms in Gansu, why then, factoring all these sort of weather difficulties, why is Jiuquan, why is this area such an ideal launch site?
Well, you know that there are different considerations to choose one launch site, but you also should follow the history. You know that the Jiuquan Satellite Launch Center is one of the major test range of China in 1950s. So it is very natural we choose this launch site as the right one for our manned space program. It also has its advantages. For instance, it seldom rains. So, as we mentioned, the lightning is very dangerous for a liftoff.
Yes.
And also, you know that we must consider about the uncertainty. During the launch, anything wrong can happen for the launch vehicle. So, if anything wrong happens, we must consider emergency escape. Right. You know that's the trajectory of the Long March 2F launch vehicle. If we locate the launch site in Jiuquan Satellite Launch Center, the advantage is that most of the path is on the mainland of China. So, if in most parts of our launch, if anything wrong happened, we can have our rescue on the land, in the mainland of China. So that is one advantage.
So it reduces the difficulties of, say, if it landed in the water, right?
Landing in the water will be more tough for the astronauts and for the rescue team as well.
Right. Yeah. And also this area is where they've chosen the launch site, it'd be fairly inhabited, right? Uninhabited.
Exactly. So
that's
this is
also very important.
Quite right. So we must consider not only the astronauts, but also consider the residents nearby. So you can see the camera inside the cabin or the re-entry capsule, and Commander Chen Dong sits in the middle, and on the far side is Mr. Chen Zhongrui. And this is the Flight Control Center in Jiuquan Satellite Launch Center.
And we're seeing the countdown now. We've got 50 minutes and 19 seconds to go.
Exactly.
All right. Well, Professor Yang, we'll come back to you in just a few minutes. Now, from China's next steps in deep space exploration to the country's expanding international cooperation efforts, the administrator of the National Space Administration has spoken to CGTN Sun Ye and said that the country's space program will remain open, proactive, and inclusive.
Thank you so much for taking this time, Administrator. What are the big moves for China's space development?
In future, China's space program will focus on 4 key areas. The first is enhancing space access capabilities. The second is accelerating space exploration. We're expediting the implementation of Chang'e 7 and Chang'e 8 missions in Phase 4 of the Lunar Exploration Program, while actively promoting the build-up of the International Lunar Research Station in conjunction with the high-quality development of the Belt and Road Initiative. Simultaneously, we're implementing planetary exploration projects. Tianwen-2 plans to conduct asteroid flyby, sampling, return, and main belt comet flyby exploration in a single mission. We will systematically advance deep space exploration missions, including the Tianwen-3 Mars sample return and Tianwen-4 Jupiter system exploration and others. The third is expanding space applications. We will construct next-generation national civilian space infrastructure and develop our satellite internet system. The fourth is promoting the safe and orderly development of commercial spaceflight.
What can you share with us on space cooperation?
The China National Space Administration has announced international cooperation opportunities for the Tianwen-3 mission, welcoming international partners to actively participate in the mission and jointly explore Mars mysteries. Chang'e belongs to China, the world, and all of humanity. We've also announced the results of international applications for Chang'e 5 lunar samples and the selection results for Chang'e 8 mission's international cooperation projects. I believe China's circle of friends in space will continue to grow. In the future, the China National Space Administration will maintain an increasingly active and open stance, extensively conducting international space exchanges and cooperation, promoting the International Lunar Research Station, the Space Information Corridor under the Belt and Road Initiative, and the BRICS remote sensing satellite constellation construction and application, making new and greater contributions to protecting Earth, improving people's livelihoods, and serving human civilization's progress.
We're talking about international cooperation. China and Pakistan are deepening their collaboration in space exploration. The past decade saw the two nations sign several agreements covering key areas such as satellite research and development, launch services, and ground station construction. As Daniel Khan reports, these achievements have sparked excitement in Pakistan, ushering in a new era for the country's space ambitions.
The SPARCO is having an overarching agreement with the China National Space Administration covering the different aspects of the space industry.
We will be progressing rapidly. The future is bright.
"2024 marks a historic milestone for Pakistan's space ambitions. As China's Chang'e 6 space probe soared towards the moon, aboard it was Pakistan's first ever lunar CubeSat satellite, a symbol of a deepening partnership between China and Pakistan in space exploration. For Pakistan, this tiny satellite represents giant strides. With its successful entry into lunar orbit, Pakistan has joined an elite group of nations venturing into deep space. But how did collaboration with China make it possible?
The SPARCO is having an overarching agreement with the China National Space Administration covering the different aspects of the space industry, the satellite development, the launch programs, and also the International Lunar Research Station cooperation as well.
Between 2019 and 2024, China and Pakistan have signed 12 cooperation agreements. The CubeSat project is just one of many joint ventures strengthening Pakistan's space program. In a groundbreaking move for Pakistan's space ambitions, China is set to train Pakistani astronauts and take them on upcoming space missions. This collaboration marks a historic first for Pakistan, paving the way for its entry into human space flight. With China's expertise in state-of-the-art space programs, Pakistani astronauts will receive advanced training, preparing them for future missions beyond Earth's atmosphere.
Human space flight is one of the bigger milestones for any nation. And this is the first time that Pakistani astronauts will go to space. They will go into the Chinese space station, and everyone is very excited about it. But before doing that, there will be a selection process. And based on the opportunity then those astronauts are going to go in space, and they will going to be doing the experiments.
Beyond lunar missions, China-Pakistan space cooperation has already transformed communication and remote sensing in Pakistan. The three major satellite projects, COMSAT-1R, Remote Sensing Satellite 1, and the latest multi-mission communications satellite launched in 2024 have had a profound impact. The new satellite transforms digital access in remote Pakistan.
Chang'e's 8 mission, the rover project is now formally selected by the China's National Space Agency, CNSA. And now at this moment, the preliminary design process has started, and also the process for the interface. So interface is very key thing. So interface requirement process has also started. So the rover will be going in 2028, will be landing on the moon and doing, and of course they will carry a lot of payloads, scientific advanced payloads. So we'll be conducting those experiments.
The partnership extends beyond technology. It's about knowledge sharing and talent development. Over the past 5 years, China has trained more than 200 Pakistani space professionals and established 3 joint R&D centers.
China has been a long-term partner with Pakistan, and they are really interested to collaborate with us. And because Pakistan has, we don't have infrastructure to launch satellites and all that, and China has been the partner to launch all the remote sensing satellites that we have. I think that Pakistan is not self-reliant in the field, and through the interest of China, we will be progressing really rapidly. And it is a source of inspiration, a source of motivation to younger generation that the future is bright.
The collaboration even extends to agriculture and medicine. In 2022, China and Pakistan launched a space breeding program, sending 7 important Pakistani medicinal plant seeds to space to study their growth in microgravity. With each mission, Pakistan moves closer to the stars, and with China as a partner, the journey is off on a strong start. Space for All, a new chapter in China-Pakistan friendship. Daniel Khan, CGTN, Islamabad.
China and Europe too have been collaborating on space exploration, and since the 1980s, this partnership has led to the joint development and launch of remote sensing satellites and astronomical satellites. And together they promoted lunar exploration and deep space discoveries that are out of this world, as Natalie Carney reports.
Cooperation is the key, so all this is very important to lunar science.
I think we have established a relationship of trust and also friendship.
Und in dieser Kammer wurden alle Einstein-Probe-Module getestet.
The team at the Max Planck Institute for Extraterrestrial Physics, or MPE, in Munich, Germany, were very excited to receive a call from the Chinese Academy of Sciences.
We've been talking to Chinese partners for quite some time about doing a collaboration in X-ray astronomy.
The Chinese-led Einstein probe space mission, being developed to search for X-rays emitted by explosions across the universe, provided the perfect opportunity.
We were excited to be involved in this project. We have expertise that we've developed over many years, over decades really, in building sensitive imaging and spectroscopic X-ray telescopes. And this is exactly what you want to do with a mission like Einstein probe.
MPE have designed 2 X-ray telescopes which are now taking detailed scans of the sky from the Einstein probe in search of black holes and neutron stars.
We already know in principle how X-rays emit radiation, but this is precisely the niche we want to advance. Rapid variability, and this niche is now being filled with the Einstein probe.
For some 4 decades, China and European partners have been working together on scientific research, Earth observation, and lunar exploration to try and understand our universe and the great beyond. When China launched its Chang'e 6 mission to collect samples from the far side of the moon, 3 of its 4 international payloads came from Europe, such as the INRI reflector, which helped position the lander. Designed and developed by scientists at the National Institute of Nuclear Physics in Italy, the small array of mirrors in the INRI reflect laser beams, which measure distance, allowing it to accurately position satellites, landers, and rovers within 1 millimeter.
The mission was launched, it landed successfully, and then about a month later, the microreflector was observed successfully by a laser orbiting the moon. It's important to have reflectors on the first side. This is the very first one, allows to start a precise positioning of the reflector and lander, and this data typically go to a planetary data system database, which is then available to all the world online.
Also on board the Chang'e 6 was France's first scientific instrument on the moon, the Dorn, developed to measure radon gas and other volatile elements to help scientists understand the physical and thermal properties of lunar soil.
If we understand better the migration of radon, we will be able to better understand also the migration of other volatile species, like for instance water, that can migrate to the cold polar regions and then form ices. That is a prime interest for the future Chang'e 7, Chang'e 8 missions and or emissions from other international agencies.
French planetary scientists are also working jointly with Chinese teams to detect and study gamma-ray bursts in outer space through a mission called the Space-Based Multi-Band Astronomical Viable Object Monitor.
The first gamma-ray burst was detected with the Chinese gamma-ray monitor instrument, and since then, we have accumulated a lot of data. The holy grail is to finally manage to accumulate enough information and locate the burst to convince large ground-based telescopes to repoint in order to somehow measure the distance of the burst.
En quelque sorte, la distance du sursaut.
These partnerships in astrophysics and data sharing are opening up the world to the discoveries of the vast unknowns of our universe.
This means a lot. I mean, exploring the moon, reaching the moon with a rocket, an orbiter, and then landing is very expensive, very difficult. So cooperation is the key. So all this is very important to lunar science.
Culturally, we have differences, but we also have a common passion to do science. The differences can mean that everyone brings something new, and something new can make progress.
I think we have established a relationship of trust and also friendship between the two sides.
It's opening up a completely new discovery space. And really, without the combination of the European technology and the Chinese technology, this would not work. It needs both, and therefore it's a perfect collaboration.
Many more projects are already in the pipeline, as Chinese launch capacity, coupled with European scientific expertise, is advancing space science and enhancing the possibilities of exploring far beyond what scientists once thought possible. Natalie Carney, CGTN, Munich.
All right, we're looking at live footage from the Jiuquan Satellite Launch Center in northwest China. This is where the Shenzhou-20 crew of 3 men will be heading and lifting off from to head to the Tiangong space station, where they'll stay for about half a year. Now we're looking at the launch pad right there, and Professor Yang, so we earlier talked about how the top platform is the first one to open up, and we can see in just the last 10 minutes or so, the very bottom platform rotating platform has now opened up as well. So we've got 2 more platforms to go in the middle. Now, I understand from you that why it's so critical that the top one for the emergency escape route is guaranteed for that one to be the first to open. But what about the other 3? Is there a particular reason why they go in that order from the bottom up, or is that also just practical reasons?
Well, you know that there are in total there are 4 rotational platforms.
Yes.
So as we've already discussed, the first one is open on the top because to make it is possible for the emergency escape system to work. And for the other ones, there is no special consideration, so we can open the bottom one first.
Okay.
But you can see, look, this is a beautiful Long March 2F launch vehicle. We can first see the 4 rocket boosters. Each of the boosters have 1 rocket engine called the YF-75 rocket engine. So each of the engine use the same version like the core stage, the first stage. So on the core stage, you know that the diameter of the first stage is 3.35 meters. Okay, we heard the voice from the command center. So also, as you asked, so now the bottom platform has already reached its final position, and now we can see the rotationing of the second and the third flat platforms.
Yes,
so you know that this launch complex will come into use during the Shenzhou-1 mission in 1999. So although you know that the basic configuration of this launch complex has not been changed, but you know that we have a very good maintenance of this launch complex. And the service tower, each time before the launch, we must have a very comprehensive examination and also a test for this. For instance, you may consider that how it will be if some of the motors will not work during the rotation of the platform.
That'll be disastrous.
So we must stop the launch sequence. So you can see the reliability, not only the reliability of the launch vehicle itself will influence the whole mission, but also the ground facilities. So this is very important. Another example is that you can see that you know that we need a large amount of water during the launch, because you know that to protect the launch pad without the influence of the flame, the high temperature flames of the launch vehicle, the 8 launch rocket engines. So we must use a lot of water
to cool down the
cool down the surface of the launch pad. So this is also a very necessary step. So we have prepared this water, large amount of water.
Sorry, did you say this has been in use since the first Shenzhou mission? This launch pad.
Well, you know, that's the first mission, as I mentioned, the Shenzhou-1 mission in 1999.
And this launch site has been in use, obviously, since then.
More than 20 years.
And so this launch tower that we're seeing as well,
the same one.
Been the exact same one, just been improved upon and maintained.
So we need a lot of maintenance for this very complex launch service tower.
And is that pretty standard practice internationally as well? I mean, most other agencies, they would have just the one, you know, regularly in use launch site as well. Right?
You can see that in the previous introduction of the videos, the interview with the Pakistanians, you know that it's extremely meaningful. You know that today we are witness of the Long March 2F launch vehicle. You know that the Long March 2F vehicle is extended or improved version of the Long March 2E launch vehicle. Long March 2E is the first one in China with side rocket boosters. The maiden flight is in 1990. Just in this maiden launch, you know that the first satellite of Pakistan is a piggyback payload of this mission. Really, really meaningful. And also, as the introduction of the previous videos, you know that the first lunar satellite of Pakistan is also been launched by the Chinese launch vehicles. So you can see that China and Pakistan has a very, very close cooperation. And also, you know that Pakistan help with China. You know that near the second largest city of Pakistan, Karachi, we have a ground station for most of the manned missions during the return of our Shenzhou spacecraft, usually before our Kashi ground station have the direct connection with Shenzhou re-entry capsule, usually first will be the Karachi ground station. So you can see the Pakistan also has a contribution to the China.
Wow, so I mean, it's very significant then that the first foreign national who will be on board the space station is also Pakistani, isn't it? So we've now got half an hour to go now. We're at the half-an-hour countdown point to lift off. And we're now seeing another rotational platform opening there.
The last one.
And Professor Yang, so earlier, we could see in the footage there's a lot of people obviously looking onto this and wanting to see the liftoff. This exciting moment.
Yes.
And their distance is about how many kilometers away from the launch site?
At least 1.5 kilometers away. You can see that so the second and the third rotational platform is now leaving the launch vehicle. So just now we saw the video of the payload fairing. So only several minutes before we can see that the ground team are doing their work to close the hatch on the payload fairing. And at this moment, all the ground crew on that floor has already been withdrawn from the launch complex.
Well, actually, we were able to see just now just some cars and some vehicles just leaving the launch
These are the
pad.
grid fins. The grid fin is a necessary part of the payload fairing, also one part of the emergency escape system. Usually, you know that when conducting an emergency escape, when the rocket motors help the Shenzhou spaceship to leave the launch vehicle very fast, but you know that theoretically speaking, the stability is not very perfect. So after leaving the launch vehicle, the four grid fin will detach from the payload fairing, and it will change the aerodynamic features of the flying objects, and it can be very, very stable. The grid fin is also widely used in other launch vehicles.
I mean, this must be for people, space aficionados, people who really do kind of keep up to date with this and like to watch these liftoffs. This must be a really exciting moment, right? Seeing
exactly.
The rocket
now you can see
like
that
this.
On this video, we can also see the
orange
arms
that you were talking about.
mechanical arms connected to the launch vehicle. So at this right moment, still we have the cables, we have the pipes connected to our launch vehicle.
Supplying the electricity.
Exactly. And also the very important data. We can have the signals from the electronics of the launch vehicle.
Right, and right now we're still able to see some ground staff there as well as some vehicles nearby, but they will be all leaving this launch site, the facility very soon,
ground team belongs to different systems. So they leave the launch complex in different batches. So in a different stage, there will be a team, they will leave the launch pad, and the leader of the team will count the number of people, so no anyone being missed.
That's very important.
Extremely important.
So there's quite a few of these these orange arms that are connected at different levels.
Yes. So on the previous video, we can also see the logo of China Manned Space Program.
Yes.
Yeah. And the three crew members, they are very calm at this moment.
Yeah, so we have Chen Dong in the middle there, and to his right, that would be Chen Zhongrui, right?
Zhongrui on the far side.
Yes.
So Dr. Wang Jie is on the near side.
And so this makeup now, one payload specialist, one engineer, right?
One flight engineer and two pilots.
Right.
But you may notice at this moment, they have already reopened their face masks. Because you know that in the previous sequence,
they had it all sealed.
They just need to conduct an airtight sealing check to check if the sealing is correct. So they have to close the face masks. But at this moment, not very necessary. So just before the launch, they will reclose their face masks to ensure the safety.
Do you think that they would change the makeup, the composition of these of the crew anytime in the future? Maybe to have two engineers, one pilot, or is the backup pilot very critical?
You know that as we've already discussed previously, you know that for any mission during the ascending phase and during the landing phase, we must have at least two pilots to be backup of each other. You know that the physical condition of a certain person can be anything wrong can happen. So if he feels sick, the other backup hand take his role. So this is a very necessary step to ensure the success and the safety of the crew.
Right, so the only variable really is the engineer.
So this is the advantage of the next generation. You see that for the next generation, the Mengzhou spaceship will be the next generation. And for Mengzhou spaceship, if it conducts a low Earth orbit mission, it can bring 6 to 7 astronauts to Tiangong. And still, we only need 2 pilots.
So they can bring more
as you
variety.
mentioned, so we can have 4 flight engineers or even 4 payload specialists.
What about in the future civilian astronauts too? Maybe scientists, other people maybe have a chance of going up there?
So as formal announced of China Manned Space Agency before, in the future with the Mengzhou spaceship, it is also possible not only have the scientists as you mentioned, but also we can have tourists.
Tourists?
Yes,
I mean,
it's possible.
Yeah, I suppose so. I mean, that's already happening in other places in the world already, isn't it?
It's already happened in other countries of the world. But honestly speaking, even if we can reduce the cost of an orbital visit to Tiangong Space Station to 1/10 of the current level, still it's not acceptable for the common people. Still only a chance for billionaires. But you know that for the common people, I think the suborbital tourism is the right choice for the common people.
Well, that's tourism, but say scientists, I mean, they would be going up there to perform very important experiments and things. That would be sort of a government initiative in that sense.
Exactly. You see that although you know that Ms. Wang Haoze and Ms. Wang Jie, Dr. Wang Jie this time, their role are flight engineers. But still, you know that they are engineers in space industry. And I can still remember that Ms. Wang Haoze is a designer of rocket engines. And also from the internet we can read that Dr. Wang Jie is an engineer in charge of the design of scientific experiments on board Tiangong Space Station, how to optimize the isolation of vibration from the space station. You know, this is important for some certain scientific research. So he is the right one for design the scientific research experiments in Tiangong Space Station. So he is a very good one, a good choice to be the crew.
But earlier you were saying, you know, when you consider the turnaround of these space missions, you have to factor in the costs of this, you know, the feasibility, viability. So that's why they've arrived at this 6 months stretch.
Exactly.
So in the future, it's just, you know, hypothesizing in the future, if space tourism became a regular thing, this would probably presumably have to be timed with each of these mission rotations, right? Otherwise, the spaceship goes up, you can't just bring them back straight away.
So this is a very reasonable consideration. You know that today also the lifespan for a certain spaceship in orbit is also about 6 months.
Right.
So we must also not only consider about how comfortable it is or the impact of the influence to the health condition of our astronauts, but also we should consider about the reliability of our Shenzhou spacecraft. Because if it is in orbit, although it is in a what we call it maybe in a hibernate status, but still the influence of the radiation and other very hazardous conditions in outer space also have the impact on our Shenzhou spaceship. So it is reasonable to ensure the safety. We need the change of the every crew for about every half a year. But you know, as we mentioned, if we this is a routinary turnaround, but for a short-term visit, we can have a special mission. For instance, maybe the launch vehicle will visit the Tiangong Space Station will be maybe only several days. But in this case, it is very interesting. We have an ideal choice to change the crew from one Shenzhou spaceship to another one. So this is to shorten the duration of a certain spaceship in orbit. And more interesting is that according to the experience in other countries, we need not only change the astronauts themselves, but also we need to change the basin. Because as I mentioned, each basin or the seat in the re-entry capsule is designed according to the shape of their body. So this can ideal the measure, the countermeasure to the impact to the greatest extent. So if you change in orbit the astronauts to a different crew, you also need to change the basin. Very, very interesting.
Yeah, there are a lot to consider in there.
Yeah.
So for this Shenzhou-20 crew, they'll be going up there and they'll be with the Shenzhou-19 crew for only a day, a couple of days?
Well,
4 days.
Well, it
4
has
days or so.
already been announced, as Mr. Lin Xixiang has already mentioned.
Back on the
The Shenzhou
29th.
19 crew will return to the Earth on the 29th
Yeah.
of April. So they will stay together for about 5 days. So usually, you know that the turnover is very, very important. And since the Shenzhou 14 mission also with Mr. Chen Dong as a commander, we conducted the first in-orbit handover. So the in-orbit handover is the necessary step for the China to follow the advanced countries in Arctic. You know that in 1980s, the former Soviet Union has already achieved the first in-orbit handover on board the Mir space station. So in-orbit handover is the most efficient measure to not only hand over with the different crew of the scientific research, but also you know that to operate space complex like the space station, there are all kinds of subsystems critical to their daily life, especially the environmental control and the life support system. They need this to tell the next crew the configurations, the problems, and also everything face to face.
Right. But on the ground, when this, you know, the current crew, when they're doing their training, I mean, they would have simulated space station environments to kind of work in, right? To kind of get used to the environment as well.
Yeah, exactly. So this is a reason why we use the neutral buoyancy pool in our China Astronaut Center.
I saw some images of that.
So this is, but you know that although we can use the buoyancy in water, which can simulate the microgravity, but still, you know that this is really tough. Each kind of training. So there is no exception. Not only for the female astronaut, even for the male astronauts, every time after underwater training, they cannot even raise a chopstick during launch. So you can see how tough it is. But it is not the most painful one. The most painful one will be the survival in wild field. You know that.
What would that entail?
Usually in Badan Jilin Desert or in the Gobi Desert.
Oh, this is if in case something happens on their return.
Exactly.
Right.
So anything wrong can happen during a flight mission. So they must have the ability to survive by themselves at least for 2 days in any condition, in deserts, in forests, or even in oceans. So before the arrival of this rescue team, the astronauts must have this ability.
And do they actually do this in the real environment? They actually do the survival training?
Even if they've already have a flight mission before, for the next mission, you must do this test.
Well, I mean, they're trained in everything.
Yeah. So they even need to drink their own urine because, you know, maybe they cannot get any water.
Yeah, exactly.
So they must keep their urine, and even they need to drink their own.
And you know, knowing how to start fires, hunt for food, stay away from any wild beasts. I mean, this is all critical to survival.
Well, it's already 5 p.m., so I believe that it's close to the last batch of our ground crew to withdraw from the launch complex.
Yes, exactly. Just 17 more minutes to go. And Professor Yang, so you know, we're looking at those images of the people standing there, and you know, as we were saying before, normally these launches happen in the middle of the night.
Bom dia, pessoal. WillPTV segue na cobertura especial da missão Shenzhou-20, faltando então 17 minutos para o lançamento. Faltam 16 minutos para o lançamento, então a tripulação já se encontra embarcada no longo marco 2 Este, Jiuquan, na China. São então em direção à estação espacial Tiangong, da China, dentro então de mais alguns minutos. Seguindo então acompanhando o especial Shenzhou-20. No PTV mostrando tudo que acontece ao redor do mundo e também na estação espacial internacional. Conosco, vamos aí continuar então aí a nossa transmissão.
This is something that they've been calculating and monitoring for days and days, right? Or even longer than that, just to make sure that on the launch day, things will go well and the weather conditions are favorable. I mean, the chances of, if say, there was unfavorable winds or sandstorm, would they have to push it back? It's not just push it back by a few minutes. It would have to be like days potentially until the next.
You know that even today with improvements of the computing technology, even today still for long-term weather forecasting is not very accurate. So as you mentioned, we must consider about this factor. So that is the reason why there are still many factors, there are still many uncertainties we cannot determine many days before. So even at this moment, maybe the final trajectory has not been confirmed. So one important task for the what we call the Commander Zero of the Jiuquan Satellite Center, you know that the one who is in charge of everything is called Commander Zero. He will announce the final moment to the lift-off moment of the launch vehicle.
You're talking about the 15-minute countdown now.
Yeah.
And just checking in with all the crew there.
Yes, the Commander Zero must receive the confirm of every system.
And we're hearing the confirmation from the various monitoring stations, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Roughly, they're all roughly in the northwest of China.
Yes.
Are they? All these
so this place is in northwest of China.
Yeah.
But along the trajectory, we will have different ground stations to monitor the trajectory of the launch vehicle and get the support on communication. You know that we have very critical parameters of the launch vehicle and of the Shenzhou spaceship. We must use the TT&C system to download these important parameters to the ground stations.
And these ground stations, but their location is around the
just along the trajectory.
Okay.
For instance, we have the Weinan space station ground station. We have the Qingdao ground station. We also have a space tracking ship, some Yuanwang space tracking ship in the Pacific Ocean.
So again, all in northern China.
Yeah. And also, you know that today, with the advantage of the Tianlian data relay satellite, we can have a continuous connection with the launch vehicle and with the Shenzhou spaceship.
But China does have a launch site in the south of China as well, in Wenchuan.
Yes, in the future, maybe our astronauts will go to the moon from the Wenchang launch site. Because you know that with the diameter increased to 5 meters, it is very difficult to transport this launch vehicle to Jiuquan Satellite Center. So at that moment, we will use a Long March 10 launch vehicle with a diameter of 5 meters in the Wenchang launch site.
Because it's easier to transport it via sea.
In the sea. So actually speaking, you know that we have Qinglan seaport near the Wenchang launch site. So we can transport very easily with vessels from Tianjin to, actually speaking, Yuanwang 21 and Yuanwang 22 ships to transport our launch vehicle from Tianjin to Hainan.
Look at the crowds there.
Yeah. So I believe they have many cameras.
Yeah.
And also, the family members, some of the family members of our crew are also among them.
But the launches might take off from Wenchang, but in terms of returning to Earth, it's unlikely that'll change, right? Because as you were saying, all these conditions, you know, what's easiest for the astronauts?
Well, you know, that's according to the press conference yesterday, the Shenzhou 20 crew will go back home before the end of October.
Yeah.
Actually speaking, at that moment, it's already very cold in Jiuquan Satellite Launch Center, but still acceptable. But if it is in December, that will be more tough. So you can see why we choose April. Although there were some small storms in April, but still, considering the next flight, it's reasonable to choose April.
Yeah, they have to look at the overall convenience, right, of conditions and stuff. So we were listening to that report earlier about international cooperation, and it was, actually, to Zheng Yibing talking to one of the technicians about what her advice is for the Pakistani astronaut who will be going up. And she did say, you know, my advice is for him to learn Chinese. So in terms
100%.
Yeah, so in terms of the language in the future.
A moment.
We're close to the 10-minute countdown now.
No, look, so the Commander Zero announced the right ignition moment.
It's a very exact 17 minutes, 28 seconds.
So, you know, that is different from China and other countries. In the China, the moment 0 means ignition.
Yeah.
But from the ignition to liftoff, still there are several seconds. But in other countries, for instance, in the United States, the moment 0
is
means
when it
liftoff.
lifts up.
So the ignition will several seconds earlier than the 0 moment, the countdown 0. So it's different. So every time during the liftoff, after liftoff, you can hear a voice which will announce the final real moment of liftoff. So it's different from the 0.
There'll be a couple of seconds, basically,
Exactly.
after the 17 hours, 17 minutes, and 28 seconds. So that's in about 10 minutes' time, and we'll have the ignition then.
So you can hear the voice will the final the real time will be accurate to millisecond.
So what in this last 10 minutes now, what sort of preparations are being made? I mean, by this time they've already done the integrated checks that we saw earlier.
Although it's
So
only
two of
less
those.
than 10 minutes from the liftoff, but still at this moment you can see that the orange mechanical
it's still
arms are
joined,
still
yeah.
connected to launch vehicle. So at this moment, still we need the power supply from the ground. But I believe that I believe the pipelines has already accomplished their tasks.
Right.
Oh, look, you can see that Dr. Wang Jie is still holding the handbook.
All three of them are
Yes.
still looking through their manuals.
So as I mentioned, there are also not only the instruction of the normal operations, but also the instructions of everything in abnormal conditions.
I mean, it's also, safety aside, it also helps to keep them calm and focused, right, to be able to go
They
through
are
these
really
lists.
calm, but I believe that they are also very happy.
Yeah, especially for the two who are going there for the first time as
Yes,
well.
yes.
So they were from China's third intake of astronauts.
Yeah.
And there's the fourth intake already that's under training, right?
Yeah. And I can still remember during the maiden flight of Commander Chen Dong, during the Shenzhou 11 mission, the commander is Mr. Jing Haipeng. And Mr. Jing Haipeng asked Mr. Chen Dong twice, do you feel happy?
And what did he answer?
Yeah, of course, it's a positive answer. And you know that is very beautiful when the payload fairing is separated from the
Because you can
from the launch
see,
vehicle.
right, the
we can
outside.
have, especially for 02 and 03, because you know that they are not sitting in the middle.
Yeah,
they
they're
have a
by the
better
window.
view with the window.
I mean, that's also a good consideration because a lot of times it seems as if the captain is the one, the commander is the one who is the veteran who's been up there already, and the two who are with him are doing their debut space mission. So for them to get to see everything in its splendor.
Well, you know that's usually the thrust of the rocket engines are in a constant value, but you know that with the usage of the propellant, the acceleration will be very, very remarkable. Usually in a normal launch procedure, the acceleration or the g-forces can reach to about 3.4 times than your own mass. So it will force on your bodies, acting on your bodies, and also at the same moment there are also very intensive vibration.
Right.
You know that both these factors can be simulated on the ground, but you cannot simulate both simultaneously on the ground. So that is the reason why Mr. Yang Liwei feels so inconvenient during the first flight, because you know that the g-forces and the vibration act to him together.
And then that's also, I presume that's why they need the seats to be so tailor-made to their bodies, right? To try and maximize the comfort.
So that's the reason why I mentioned that the seats also must be exchanged if the crew changes to a different crew. Because the basin or the seat is made according to his own shape.
Yeah, to make it more comfortable. I mean, that's sort of the vibration plus the g-forces. I mean, if it can't be simultaneously recreated here on Earth, it's incredibly hard to imagine what that will be like. I mean, it's only these astronauts who've been up there.
The most hard for the astronaut is that not only the normal condition, it's only 3.6 times of your own mass. But in an emergency escape or an emergency re-entry, it can reach more than 8 G. And the more tough thing is if your role is a pilot, not only you must can afford these 8G forces, you must have the ability to do the right choice, to press the right buttons under the 8G. So that's the responsibility for a pilot.
So how have these astronauts described that feeling, that combined feeling?
So,
G-force and vibration. What does it
proud,
feel like?
Proud us most is that until today on the ground simulation facility, so there is a button. If the astronaut feel uncomfortable, they can press the button to stop the simulation. But until today, no one has pressed this button before.
Very
stoic,
very brave.
Yeah, they are very brave.
Yeah,
and
they're enduring a lot.
They are willing to sacrifice to China's manned space program. So that is.
That's the zero command.
T-minus 5 minutes and counting.
Yeah, I mean, this is why you're saying about the physical conditions that they need to be in and the physical training they go through, but there's a lot expected of these astronauts.
So within several seconds, we will see the transition of the power supply from the launch complex or the ground to the storage batteries on board the Shenzhou spaceship and the launch vehicle.
That's when we'll see the orange arms separating, right?
Yeah,
disconnecting.
Because we don't need the ground supply any longer.
I mean, even though we have done this, we have seen this a few times, it is sort of the nerve-wracking moment, isn't it? This next few minutes.
Exactly.
I feel it too, every time.
And I should say congratulations to
Menos de 5
Mr.
minutos
Chen Zhongrui
para o
and
lançamento.
Dr. Wang Jie, and congratulate for them to fulfill their dreams to go to outer space.
Oh, absolutely. So just a few minutes left, 4 minutes left until the ignition, not the liftoff, but the ignition.
Less than 5 minutes.
And at this point, the ground crew will have all left, right?
All have already withdrawn from the launch complex.
So it's just the astronauts now. But this is something that we've talked about before, but everything is basically all set, all pre-programmed, isn't it? So there's just, very little room for error.
Not 100%. As we've already discussed, why we have so many simulations time and time again? Because you know that not only all the parameters can be pre-set, because you know that as we've already discussed. Okay, T-minus 3 minutes and counting. So you can see that the influence of the wind speed, the influence of the weather condition, and also many other things can influence the final parameter of the mission itself. So it is necessary and reasonable to conduct all these simulations before the launch. And also in different stages of the countdown, we have the comprehensive checking and confirmation of each system.
But that is pretty much all done by the ground teams. And in terms of what these 3 astronauts will have to manually do inside the spacecraft as they're heading towards the space station, what would that involve?
Something can be done automatically. Today, the AI technology is widely used, and also no exception in we speak. But look, just on the previous video, we can see that again, the face mask of each astronaut were closed.
Yes, they.
So it's already reached the final ignition.
Well, yes, they've got just 2 minutes to go.
Yeah.
So they don't really. So there's kind of very little for them to have to do, for the astronauts to have to do until they start, say, the docking rendezvous.
But still, they are reading the instructions.
Yeah, that's true.
Next, we will see that the orange arms will be separated, detached from the launch vehicle.
It's all in the hands of the ground team, basically, now.
Yeah.
And we saw different teams earlier working there, some in white, some in blue. These are all teams focused on different parts.
Some belongs to the launch vehicle system, some belongs to the Shenzhou space system, and some belongs to the astronaut system. The astronaut system will be in charge of the health condition, the IVA spacesuit, and the inside life support system of the Shenzhou spacecraft. So, okay, T-minus 1 minute and counting. I believe at this moment the onboard computer of the launch vehicle has already in charge of everything.
Well, it looks like the orange arms are still connected right now.
It will rotate soon.
Oh, it's
you
happening
can see
right
that
now.
the Shenzhou-19 crew is watching the live coverage. Okay, all detached.
So the rocket is now completely on its own.
30 seconds.
seconds. 20 seconds to go.
Every system is go for launch.
10 seconds. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Salute. It's over. It's over is to change the direction of the flight from vertical direction to the eastern route.
There's a slight adjustment in the flight trajectory.
So beautiful.
And there it is, that's the Shenzhou-20.
So we can hear the voice of the ground station that the tracking is normal. And you can see this beautiful view of the launch vehicle.
How many adjustments would the rocket normally have to make in its trajectory on the way there? Is there a set
you need to change its direction constantly, continuously. Okay, look, this is a camera mounted on the launch vehicle, looking backward.
Yeah, we're getting a really good view because it's daytime as well.
And also you can see 2 of the 4 rocket boosters, each with a diameter of 2.25 meters.
Those will be jettisoned a little bit later on in the flight.
Usually at about 120 seconds after liftoff.
I imagine the Shenzhou-19 crew are sitting there remembering, recalling when they were lifting off.
You can still see the camera inside the cabin, but although the vibration and the G-forces are already acting on the bodies of the astronauts, but still they are very calm.
Yeah.
So the first critical step will be the jettisoning of the emergency escape tower.
So that's the one at the top?
Yeah. So several seconds later, it's close.
I mean, the 19 crew must also be excited that the 20 is coming to take over for them so that they can head home.
Prepare the dinner for them.
Yeah. Then only a few more days before they can head home themselves.
Okay, jettisoned.
That's the escape tower that's been jettisoned.
Escape tower has jettisoned because it's already high enough and the aerodynamic forces have already been a low level, not necessary to remain on the top.
At what point will these astronauts stop feeling the G-forces and the vibration?
So next will be the separation of the 4 boosters.
Should be seeing that any moment, right?
You can see that although it's daytime, but the background you can see the sky is already black because this is already near the vacuum condition.
Oh, that's the
separated.
Boosters. They all go at the same time, right?
Yeah. So you can see the 4 boosters form a cross. And also the first stage has already successfully separated from the launch vehicle. Now the second stage, the second core stage has already been ignited.
And at this point, are the astronauts still feeling the G-forces?
Exactly, they can feel both the vibration because even outside the atmosphere, still the working of the rocket engines can form the vibration. So this is a camera mounted on the second stage. You can see that the Earth in the daytime is very bright.
Right.
So you can. This is a camera mounted in the payload fairing. You can see the solar panels in the folded condition.
And the solar panels are very...
several seconds we will see, okay,
there it is,
beautiful.
jettisoned. And the solar panels are obviously the important indicator here.
At this moment, Mr. Chen Zhongrui and Dr. Wang Jie can enjoy the view.
They're back to their manuals again.
So they changed to the different pages because it's in a different stage.
So What else is there to jettison now? So they've jettisoned the emergency tower, the emergency escape, the boosters, the payload.
First stage, and then the payload fairing. So the next step, that will last for many minutes, because that although the second stage of our Long March 2F launch vehicle only have one engine, it has one main engine and 4 vernier engines. The vernier engines, the thrust is very small, but it can change its directions to keep the right attitude. Look, this is a camera mounted on the rear part of the second stage of our Long March 2F launch vehicle. You can see the big nozzle is the main engine. We can hear the voice of the ground station that the flight is normal, and the ground stations can track the launch vehicle very normally.
Which is good to know.
Well, you can see one of the vernier engines, the smaller nozzle, you can see very clearly. So this is a camera mounted on the second stage.
Is it now more comfortable for the astronauts?
Not very comfortable.
Still
because
not.
you know that with less propellants, okay, you can see also still Dr. Wang Jie is still looking the menu.
Probably helps to calm the nerves as well.
So you may notice that this time from the Shenzhou spacecraft, we can see the high definition video from the inside.
Yes,
it follows the high definition standard, 1080 pixels solution.
And this has been an upgrade as well, right? For
yes,
this particular mission.
It's upgraded.
Very bright.
Okay, the Qingdao ground station near the eastern coast of China has already captured the launch vehicle. So Qingdao is the last ground station
in China,
in mainland of China. So the next will be the space tracking ships. So you can have a very beautiful view of the very bright the Earth.
Yeah.
So in the daytime, and also the black sky, even in daytime.
So we've got images there on the right of the Shenzhou-19 crew on the Tiangong at the bottom, and then our Shenzhou-20 crew inside the capsule.
There is a very interesting thing before. That Mr. Jing Haipeng is also watching the live coverage of China Media Group, and your colleague said hello to him, and he can respond because he's watching the live coverage of CCTV.
So why is it that the solar panels, that's such an important indicator of a successful launch?
For the storage battery of Shenzhou space, we only have a limited volume or capacity of the storage battery. So we need the solar panels to provide continuous power supply. So that is the reason we only announce the success of a launch mission when the solar panels is normally unfolded and extended to a very big one.
It means the continuous stable supply.
Yeah, exactly. So electricity is very important for flight mission. But after docking to the space station, so the power system can be combined together.
Right. And there's the Qingdao monitoring station
has
again.
Already both the upstream link and the downstream link. So you can see the flame of the nozzles are quite different from those on the ground.
And the type of fuel that these rockets use, can you just tell us a little bit more about that again?
Well, that's the main engine of the second stage will work for a very long time, and it will shut down first. But this is not the end of the mission of the launch vehicle. So the 4 vernier engines, you can see the rotation of the vernier engine. The 4 vernier engines will work longer to adjust the trajectory, to make it precise enough. So they are laughing.
Good sign. And Professor Yang, so all these pieces of the rocket that's been shed, that would just fall back to Earth, and what will happen to them? Do they get retrieved again? Do they just get left?
Because that is the Long March 2F is not a reusable launch vehicle, but in the future, probably Long March 10 for the next generation spaceship will be a reusable one.
And that leads me to ask as well, because this time one of their important missions for important tasks for the 20 crew is to install that protective device against space debris, right? How big of a problem is space debris?
We've already met some problem. You know that the Tianhe module, the core module, Tianhe 1, have 2 solar panels. One of the panel was slightly damaged by the space debris. Actually speaking, the cables. So the Shenzhou 18 crew and the Shenzhou 19 crew has already do some attempts. So this problem has already been solved.
Okay.
So that's the reason why we need the protection.
And we're hearing another ground station there.
The space tracking ships have already captured.
You
can see on the bottom right, we can see the 3D simulation. Oh, the main engine has already cut off.
Ah. Oh.
Burning engine also shut off.
So now the shuttle, the spacecraft is on its own.
Okay. So the Long March 2F Y-20 launch vehicle has already accomplished its task. And
you can see the smiles on people's faces now at Jiuquan.
So at this moment, we will not only unfold the solar panels, but also we will release our antenna of the data relay system. Because you know that for high-speed transmission, we need a relatively big antenna for the to point accurately to our Tianlian data relay satellite. Tianlu is a data relay satellite.
And they're saying that everything is normal.
So the Shenzhou 19 crew is also watching the live coverage of CMG.
Yeah, so aside from that installation of that protective device, there's also mention of a robot that might be used up there with.
We can show a video also from CMG that Ms. Wang Haoze is test the small robot called maybe Xiaofei inside the cabin. Okay, the ground station also we heard the voice reporting the normal status. I just in the previous I noticed that Dr. Wang Jie is enjoying the microgravity with his pen.
So this robot, what would that be used for then? Will it be able to complete any?
To be a digital assistant.
Okay. Would it be able to help with any of these more dangerous missions? No, like EVA.
That is inside the cabin. So not like the robotic arms outside the station. So they can make the work more simply and more easily, but not reduce the risk. You know that the robotic arm plays a very important role in the operation of a space station. Oh, the solar panels are unfolded. A really beautiful view from the, actually speaking, the propulsion module of our Shenzhou spacecraft. You know that the Shenzhou spacecraft have 3 modules: the orbital module, the re-entry capsule, and the propulsion module. So this is a camera mounted on the propulsion module, and it can monitor one of the solar panels.
And this is a very important
also, you know that we have 2 systems on the concerning about the Tianlian data relay satellite. One can transmit important critical parameters, and one can transmit very heavy data streams. So we need that is the reason why we need a big antenna for this Tianlian data relay satellite to transmit the videos.
We were just hearing earlier the ground staff there saying that the solar panels have opened up.
But I believe that the Shenzhou spacecraft will enter the shadow area very soon.
And what will that mean? What sort of impact will that have?
They will be at night.
Okay. So not much change for them. There's nothing to have to adjust or for the spacecraft to do. You're saying the solar panels have expanded.
But don't worry. We have plenty of energy in the storage batteries. So usually in the shadow area, the Shenzhou space only need to fly about less than 40 minutes.
Right.
So at this moment, still we cannot announce the success of the launch. Only when we double check the accuracy of the orbital parameters of the Shenzhou spacecraft, only it's accurate enough, we can announce that it is a successful launch.
When you say accurate enough, meaning what exactly?
Means that the energy or the propellants inside the propulsion module of the Shenzhou space is good enough to catch up with the Tiangong space station and have the chance to correct all errors and dock with the Tiangong space station.
That should be pretty soon, right? Judging by the
pretty soon, but we still need some. You know that there are different data sources. We have the measurements inside the Shenzhou spacecraft. Also, we have the data from the devices which can help with the help of the Beidou navigation satellites. We also have the ground stations like together with the space tracking ships to have different data sources. And finally, we can have a very accurate determination of the orbit of the Shenzhou 20. And with analysis of the ground crew, we can finally make the decision or make the conclusion.
Just some more communication between the different We're hearing astronauts saying that they feel fine and everything is normal and functioning as expected. But from judging from previous experiences watching these launches, the time for all of this is very well controlled, right? I mean, it seems to be kind of pretty much always on the mark. It's like within half an hour of the launch, everything's declared a success. So it's controlling down to the down to the second.
So although as I mentioned, all the parameters several days before, but most critical ones should be a design. So it's not a coincidence that every time we have the right moment to do the right thing.
Yeah, it's incredibly precise. It's impressive.
You can see that
they're lifting
opened their face masks. Yeah. So this means that the most dangerous part of this launch has already been successful, and they can be relaxed.
So now they're not feeling any of these forces or vibrations.
They are enjoying the microgravity now.
Yeah.
深圳20号载人飞船已进入近地点高度200公里，远地点高度399公里。
So from now on, it will be about how many hours until they reach the Tiangong?
6.5 hours.
6.5 hours from now, from liftoff.
We just heard from the ground crew that the perigee or the nearest lowest point of the Shenzhou 20 is 200 kilometers. And the highest point, or the apogee of the Shenzhou spacecraft, is 359 kilometers.
以向各方向发出，东风明白，华山。
So he's communicating again with all of those tracking stations.
So in our tradition before, the chief of the Jiuquan Satellite Launch Center will announce the success.
长城controlled literally down to the second. It's
as we discussed, the Shenzhou spacecraft is already a very practical one, and also we have experienced the team, not only the design and manufacturing test of the Shenzhou spacecraft, but also our launch site system.
北京明白，各号注意收听。
I think we're going to get that important message soon.